Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Worship Guitar Show. Great to see you this evening. I hope you had an amazing day. You've been having an amazing week, and that everything in your world is going amazingly well. Great to see you. So we have something very cool happening this evening. We're going to get a chance to really get intimately aware of what's happening with jet pedals, not just from the perspective of Junior Thompson, the founder and chief engineer and tone architect, but also we've got some amazing special guests who, like myself, have fallen in love with what Junior and his team are doing. We're going to get a chance to talk about a number of different perspectives about these pedals, but also kind of perspective on using drive pedals and MIDI and set organization and MIDI mapping and strategies thereof, specifically within the framework of worship. And the neat thing is that Junior Thompson is going to kind of give us some of the insights about these pedals. I'm going to demo through some sounds here with Junior hanging out. Then we're going to be joined by Brian and Bradford from Worship Tutorials. Then we're going to have Jimmy from Hey Worship Leader. But we also are going to have, somebody's ringing in here. Hang on a second. So we're also going to have a very special guest, Ryan from Gear Fever, who's going to join us a little bit later on. But after we're done with this first initial thing, we're going to actually be joined by Colton Sanchez from Red Walks Worship. Sorry, somebody's trying to ring in a little bit early here. So, first of all, it's my distinct honor and privilege to introduce Junior Thompson. Junior, say hello.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Are we coming through a little pixelated?
You're a little pixely, but you're still handsome, and those colors are gorgeous.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so Ryan keeps trying to join here. I think he's got his time zones flipped. I think he's thinking we're an hour ahead. In any case, so Junior.
You're gonna have to get the internet.
So Junior, one of the things that's really neat is that pedals, they are in many ways the essence of the worship guitar sound. The idea of stacking pedals, using them to add character to kind of, if you will, a core amp or pair of amplifiers, is really an integral part of how we build layers of volume and texture and the combination thereof. And the neat thing that you've got going here is that we've got some very cool things happening. Here we go, thank you very much. On this little pedal board that I put together with some of your magical concoctions here. And one of the cool things is that all of these guys are MIDI capable. And so essentially you can control them via this guy controlling HX Stomp, these guys controlling these different devices. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit more later in the show. But in the meantime, and I have a little bit of cam reversal. There we go. Junior MIDI. So what we're going to do is we're going to play through some of these different sounds. And what I want to do is just kind of get your take on the origin of some of these sounds, what it is that you've done that make these things significant, and what separates jet pedals from the rest of the market. So I'd love to start there, Junior. So what separates what you do from the rest of the pack?
Oh, man. All right, so what we do is we try to keep things simple, intuitive, easy to use, but sophisticated at the same time. So you can see our Revelation, we have a 3-knob reverb that's really simple to use, but offers big, gorgeous, huge sounds, presets, MIDI, you name it. So we try and pack a lot of features in a small enclosure and make things easy to use. A lot of companies have started off with making drive pedals. We started off with making MIDI controllers and digital reverbs. So that's kind of my techie side of things. I really appreciate that. And then I really wanted to get into the drive world, so we wanted to do something unique with the Line of the Lamb. And what we've done with that is offer a full analog signal path, but yet give you 100% digital control over presets and full MIDI control over every knob, switch, feature, so on and so forth. So trying to cram a lot of features in a little enclosure and make it easy to use. I think that's what sets us apart.
I love that. So we're going to be digging into the MIDI side further on in the show here. But for those of you that that speak MIDI, we got lots of stuff for you. For those of you that MIDI is a 4-letter word that's a little scary, the simple concept is just like in a preset on HX Stomp, there's a bunch of stuff that turns on and off. And at the most basic level, and we'll talk about this more, there's basically just program changes, and then there's command changes where you're changing a particular thing inside an effect. What we're going to do here initially is we're just going to give you a chance to hear some of the sounds. And what I've done is I've set up this board like this. Hang on, let me go to the right. There we go. Come on, change over. There we go. I've set up this board in such a way that it's the signal chain. I'm going into the lion, which is the way Junior runs it. Lion into the lamb, into the front of the HX Stomp, out of the loop in stereo to the Revelation Reverb, and in turn, that's basically going direct out, right? So what I want to do, first of all, is give you a chance to just hear the core sound, because that's a great place to start. Let me make sure that the reverb is off. I'm playing this telly. Gonna add a little verb because it's worship. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking turns muting my mic so you don't hear my direct sound. I'm going to add the different drives, and I'll point to what I'm going to turn on or off so you know, and you'll of course see the LEDs. We're going to start off turning the reverb off, and we're just going to hear the lamb, which is the overdrive. The line is, of course, the distortion. Now, one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier, and I'm going to have to really watch my moves. Here we go. One of the things we talked about a little bit earlier is the idea that some worship guitar players are a little overdrive centric and not distortion friendly. So Junior, would you care to walk us through the kind of like, don't be afraid of distortion?
Oh man. Yeah, I use distortion a lot in worship. I think you're going to hear from Colton here in a little bit. We use distortion a lot. Obviously when the song calls for it. But really, you can't be afraid of going, instead of stacking a bunch of overdrives together, you can't be afraid just to turn on a distortion. Get a little bit extra more clipping out of it, really get that aggressive sound, put on a little bit of reverb to wash it up a little bit so you sit back in the mix and you're not really up in front, standing out. But I do believe, especially in the type of music that Veritas is doing, I love what they're doing, by the way. You really got to have that extra grit and grunt to go along with the style of music they're doing. So I think distortion is something that we shouldn't be afraid of. I think we should embrace it and really bring it back, bring it into worship for sure.
I love that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit more about kind of how I've got this set up and how I usually do my rig. Like many of you, I kind of have a go-to approach. And what I did here was I kind of took what Junior has done in terms of his approach of how he uses HX Stomp. He basically runs both drive pedals from the line into the lamb, into the front end, like I talked about. He's got the Revelation Reverb in stereo in the loop, and then he's controlling this via MIDI. What I have a tendency to do, my go-to worship thing is a pair of amplifiers. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull up HX Edit here for a quick sec. And I'm going to walk through kind of my vibe here. You know, the guitar input obviously there. I have a tendency to steal the Worship Tutorials Deluxe Comp settings because they basically have it totally dialed. And then in turn, I sometimes will have a hard gate. If I'm playing a Stratocaster or someplace where there's a lot of noise, I want to be able to shut the guitar up. So that's where a hard gate can become particularly valuable. I don't have it engaged right now, but if I needed to, I would. Then I usually run a pair of amplifiers. In this particular case, I've got a pair of AC30 fawns, and I just set them slightly different. And these are bundled with cabs in there, so you can see that there's a cab block. And then they go out into a stereo delay. And the stereo delay is part of my thing. And then here obviously is the effects loop. So now that we've got that kind of out of the way, I'm going to play without the delay for a quick second. And now I'm going to add the delay in.
I hear there's looks like oh, you got your job there. Doug, you got your vocal mic off.
We're going to start off without any drives on. Adding Verb. Adding the lamp for a little bit of drive. Switching over to distortion. And adding the lamb in on top of that. I'll start off without the lamb add. Junior.
Awesome. Sounds great, man.
So tell me how you like to kind of layer your pedals and use them in it when you're doing worship.
Yeah, really, it's going to depend on what the song calls for, but I almost always have a reverb and delay on. I usually go, I have about 3 main delays that I go back and forth from. So I'll have a dual delay, so a 1/4 inch and a dotted eighth delay that I use for big ambient stuff. Then I'll use a clean digital dotted eighth delay for kind of heavy repeat, or sorry, heavy feedback, short repeats. And then, or heavy mix, short feedback. I'll use that for a lot of lead lines or when the songs call for it. And then, a 1/4 inch tape delay, just to kind of more of a rhythm sound. So those are kind of my 3 main delays that I go through. and then I use my Revelation mostly on the modulation algorithm most of the time, and then I'll vary my mix and my decay appropriately for the song, whether it's a big ambient type of thing, swells, or you just need something really. I love to have a low mix and a really long decay to kind of sit behind lead lines. Keeping a low mix in there kind of helps to where it stays out of the way of the initial pick attack of the guitar. But then that long decay kind of just holds it on and carries it through the lead line, which is a really wonderful sound that I like to stick with. And then overdrives, it's really just going to depend again what the song's calling for. But I'm usually have the lamb by itself, the line by itself, or I'll stack the two together. There are times where I only had the line and the lamb on my board, so those are the only two overdrives. But with the features that they have and the presets in the MIDI, I can dial in a lot of different sounds out of that. And then I know we kind of talked earlier about the stacking order, but I like to stack the lion into the lamb because when you have the ability to pull the gain back on the distortion and then boost the volume up really high, you get tons of headroom there, and you can really slam that front end of the lamb, and you can go for more of a thicker overdrive sound. So you kind of have that nice lamb by itself would be overdrive. The lion pushing into the lamb would give you a nice heavy, thick overdrive, and then the lion by itself would give you nice distortion, and then you can stack the two of those together with the line really cranked up for lead line territory, nice saturated single note lead line stuff. So between all that's usually where I sit, and then of course any chorus and vibrato and tremolo and things where the song calls for, we'll stack some of that in there as well.
Okay. Junior, go ahead and talk for me for a quick sec.
Yeah.
Okay. There's an echo that I'm in the process of trying to eliminate that I think I might have just done. Echo gone.
Excellent. Question. Yeah. Testing 1, 2, 3, no echo. Yeah, I thought that was me earlier. I pulled my in-ears out, and then I saw in the comments that we had an echo, and I put them back in, but I guess that wasn't it.
Okay. And Junior, go ahead and keep talking for just a quick sec.
Sure. Well, I think this would be a great time to plug the worship guitar player channel. We do. We're pretty limited on where we sell our pedals, and we're pretty limited on who we choose our partners with. And, you guys at the Worship Guitar Show and the Worship Guitar Player and Worship Musician Magazine have been great friends of ours and great mentors, and we've partnered up with you guys too. So if anyone's interested in the pedals that they're hearing here, we've partnered up with the Worship Guitar Player channel over on Reverb.com if you need to pick up any of the products there. So I want to make sure I got that out. But really enjoy working with you guys and appreciate the support. How are things coming?
Absolutely. And so hang on a second. I'm firing up that URL here. So if anybody's interested, this is how you can locate us. There we go.
There it is.
So, Junior, we're waiting for Colton to join us. In the meantime, can you do me a favor and tell us about what the products are right now that you have to offer?
Yeah. So we have 5 pedals. We have, now this is where it gets a little confusing. We're going to talk a lot about the Jet MCX today, which is our customizable MIDI controller, which you see on your board earlier. But we also have a Jet Micro, and that's where it gets confusing. They look almost exactly the same, but they do and serve 2 different purposes. The Jet Micro is a companion controller, the MIDI controller that we made to work alongside with the HX Stomp. So it's kind of for the folks that want to just first jump into MIDI. You don't have to do any MIDI programming. It's pre-programmed, but yet the way we've set it up and the way that the HX Stomp works, you can customize the different buttons to control different blocks and parameters within the HX Stomp, and you can have those saved per preset within the Stomp. So it gives you a ton of flexibility, and it also just packs a lot of punch. It will completely open up the HX Stomp with the 3 different buttons. They all have multiple purposes. They have a single tap and a double tap. So you can, between the 3 buttons, you can access 6 different blocks. There it is. There's the micro. And So between those 3 buttons, you can access 6 blocks. And then if you do a long press on the 3 buttons, it also pulls up the 3 snapshots within the stomp. So you get access to snapshots, 6 different blocks or effect parameters. And then if you do 2 button presses, where like you just roll your foot to the side, then you can scroll up and down through presets. So anyways, the micro does that a little bit more, but I'll move on. And then the MCX is kind of looks very similar, has a lot of similar features, but it does have a Google Chrome web editor that goes along with it. And then you can fully customize any way you want to send MIDI messages. It'll send out batch messages, so up to 16 messages per click, per long press, per 2 button press. So that one is our fully customizable MIDI controller. Then we have the Revelation Reverb, which you heard a little bit earlier. 3 algorithms on board, 3 presets on board, and then we have a standard and a MIDI version. If you pick up the MIDI version, you can have several, like 100, 125 presets on board with MIDI. And then same goes for the Line the Lamb. We have a Line the Lamb, which is our overdrive and distortion. Those with MIDI, you can have 100 presets on board. If you choose not to use MIDI, then there's 3 presets on board, and then multiple clipping options. We have a lead boost built into each one of these pedals, so it's a post-gain lead boost. So you can always, when you double tap the preset switch, it engages the lead boost, and you can customize. There's no knob for the lead boost, but you can customize that in the global settings of how loud you want that boost to be. And then, of course, every knob, switch, feature, lead boost is all controllable by MIDI. So that's a real quick overview of the 5 pedals that we offer.
I love it. Hey, let's see here. Colton Sanchez from Red Rocks Worship.
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing?
How's it going, guys?
Good. Good to see you.
Doing great.
So, Colton, thanks so much for joining us. For those of you that
thanks for
have
having
yet,
me.
With great pleasure, have yet to meet Colton, Red Rocks Worship is, hopefully I won't embarrass you, Colton. I think this is going to be a huge year, slash, 2021 and 22. I think they're going to blow up. And so it's really exciting to just get a chance to hang with Colton and Junior. I'm going to take the kind of back seat to all of this, and I'm going to let you guys kind of talk a little bit about what you do. And then Colton, I'm going to kind of do some camera controlling. Sometimes I'm going to bring you full frame. Sometimes if you and Junior want to interact, I'm going to have you toggle back and forth. But for those of you, hang on, I'm going to jump over to Meville for just a quick second.
Let's do it.
Hi. So what we're going to do is that we want to give Colton the chance to kind of talk about what he does, how he does it. Like I said, they're getting ready to blow up. So they are playing in, they're swinging for the fences. Not that it's about swinging for the fences in worship other than for God. And the whole point is that when your worship team starts getting attention, it's time to actually make sure that all the things are dialed. And one of the things that Colton has is a great strategy about how he uses his gear, specifically how Jet figures into that, the multitude of drive pedals that he uses, so on and so forth. So with that said, gentlemen.
Doug, you put me on the spot here. Yeah, so Colton, let's go back to how we met. I think we met through the Facebook channels.
It was
channels.
It was last summer, I think, like last July.
Correct.
I think I remember posting a video of one of our newer songs in one of like the guitar player communities on Facebook, and you commented on it, and then I think that's when we kind of started talking, and I got to know your products, and you sent me out a few things for me to try, and then fell in love with it, and we've been working together ever since.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember the post, and it was very modest. I remember that you were like, "Hey, here's a video of our band just released," or here's a video of my band, and I wasn't expecting much, and then I'm like, wait a second, this is Red Rocks here. So we've been my wife leads worship with me. I used to do a little music directing, but now I play guitar and bass at our church. But we used to lead Red Rock songs all the time where we were at a different church, and now we're just getting plugged into a new church, so we're just about ready to bring in the Red Rocks with those guys. But so when I say past tense, it's because we were transitioning to a different church. But yeah, we would lead your songs week in and week out, and I was just amazed. I was like, wait a second, this is Red Rocks here. So I had to reach out. I had to make sure you guys had Revelation Reverb, and then wanted to talk to you a little bit about MIDI, and you ended up getting the MCX sent your way. So I was very excited to make that introduction, and you've just been a stand-up guy ever since. So I really appreciate the support you sent our way.
Well, dude, I've loved everything you sent me. All the pedals, even these new ones with the Lion and the Lamb, have been awesome and been well utilized in my day-to-day life as a guitar player. So
yeah, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, did you use a little bit of the Revelation on the last album that was out? Is that?
Yeah, so this latest EP, it's one record, but we split it up into two EPs. So it's Things of Heaven, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is Where We Come From, and then part 2 that's coming out soon, end of summer, is Where We're Going. And so the Revelation will be all over that record. So
awesome. Yeah, I love that. Appreciate the support. So let's just segue. Let's talk about your signal chain. Let's talk about your board. Let's talk a little bit about how you set it up and how you play.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. So I have it right here next to me. It's not in view of the camera. I'm not fancy like Doug and having overhead and camera switching and all of that. But I will be able to sample some of my sounds if y'all would like that.
I'd love it.
So essentially how my signal chain runs, and I know I'm kind of more on the extreme side when it comes to my overdrive section, but overdrive is my absolute favorite. And I also love ice cream, and that's how I kind of picture my overdrive section, is like just a bunch of different flavors of ice cream. And so it starts with the Walrus Audio Warhorn. I kind of use that as a tone shaper. It's just a great, clean, transparent overdrive, and really I just use it to EQ my amp settings from the stomp. And so it's always on. And so if I ever change guitars or things like that, I can just quickly change, the highs or the bass, depending on what guitar I'm using that week. Perfect. Or whatever song that we're playing. From there, it goes into the Lamb. And so I kind of keep that as just like a first stage overdrive. And then my favorite overdrive of all time is the JHS Kilt V1. And so that is like my always on bread and butter overdrive pedal. And then everything after that is essentially the different flavors of ice cream for boosts. So I don't usually think of overdrives as independent and flip on, a different one to have a completely different thing. I lean more on the philosophy of more volume, less drive whenever it comes to my overdrive pedals. So everything after that, including the boost on the kilt, is really just to add a different flavor of saturation for a boost. But I either want that main overdrive sound coming from the kilt or from the Lion. So I kind of use those interchangeably depending on what song we're doing. And so then after the kilt, it goes into the Lion, and been loving that, been using that a lot recently. And then after the Lion, it goes into the Cusack Music Screamer Fuzz, which Brian and I were just talking about this the other day, but we're trying to bring fuzz back into worship, or bring it into worship maybe for the first time. Because I know it's been on a few records, but I think it's so highly underrated. It's all over our latest record on a few solos that I have in lead parts. It's essentially just a tube screamer with a germanium fuzz knob on it, so you can dial in how much fuzz you want to saturate the tube screamer. So it's just a really cool way to integrate fuzz into worship. So that's my overdrive section. It's a lot. It's 5 overdrives, but everything has its place and its purpose. And then from there, I love overdrive.
We were just talking earlier about trying to bring distortion back, or distortion into worship.
Yeah.
And I know there's plenty of distortion in worship. But That's funny. You had to one up me because now we're bringing fuzz back. Let's bring fuzz into worship.
I know.
But I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. That should be your next thing, is a fuzz pedal.
Okay.
I would eat that up. So then
MIDI
out of
controllable fuzz.
MIDI controllable fuzz, there's something there. There's something there. Next
hang
it goes.
a second. Hang on a second. Wait a second. So let me add myself to this. Just 1 second.
Okay.
See if I can.
Okay, come on in.
Oh, okay, hang on. I'll have to take myself out in a minute and go back to that. But here's the thing. Imagine being able to go to different a silicon, and then what's the other? A silicon and germanium, and be able to have MIDI controllable, the ability to switch between those. That would be rad.
That would be sweet. That'd be really sweet. But yeah, I mean, I love Overdrive. It's the thing that moves in and out of my board the most constantly. Everything else stays the same for me when it comes to delays and reverbs and things like that. But overdrives are things that I really like to experiment with, and always trying to find new sounds and change my tone that way. So then after that comes the micropog. I have it modded to where I have 2 presets with it. So I have a high and a low setting that I can access at any time, to where I don't have to change any of the knobs. It just has a separate set of knobs built into it. So it's really easy for me just to get either a higher octave sound or a lower octave sound, depending on the song. And then from there, it goes into the volume pedal, and then into my HX Stomp, which I'm running my amps and then my delays through. And then out of that, it comes stereo out into the Walrus Audio Juliana Stereo Chorus, which I have been loving. It is so lush, so amazing, especially when you throw on a lot of reverb. It just sounds really wide, really lush, not too modulated, to where it sounds funky, but just enough to where it just sits in a mix really well. And then from there, it goes into the Strymon Blue Sky, and then into the Jet Pedals Revelation Reverb.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's my chain. And so I kind of think of the same way with reverbs, where I kind of have a stack of 1, 2, 3. Like stage 1 is just like a spring reverb on the Blue Sky. And then like typical worship verb is just stacking the rev on top of that. And then if I need to get really big swells, just on the favorite switch of the Blue Sky, I just have it set with the decay just a lot longer for swells.
There you go.
And so I kind of have 3 different stages of reverb as well that I have really easy access to.
Colton, what are your go-to amp models?
So it's funny. I just changed. I haven't changed my amps in my Stomp in like a year and a half. And so last week I just changed it up. So my new amps that I'm using are the AC30 Fawn Brit, and then the mail order Twin, which is kind of like the blackface reverb thing, or the Fender ProSonic. The Fender ProSonic is one of my favorite amps of all time. And so I've kind of made it to where it sounds like that. And then I'm using David Hislop's IRs on those. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm loving it. So it's similar to my previous patches that I've made, but it's just a little bit more darker because my tone tends to run pretty bright. And so I just wanted to change things up and give my ears a break a little bit, and just hear something new.
Yeah, and it looks like you're sitting there holding the Veritas. I'm assuming that's one of your go-to guitars there.
This is my go-to. Is a Veritas Mini Master. Love this thing. It was a gift from our worship team for my birthday this past year. So super grateful for this thing. It's amazing. And so it's my number one.
Awesome.
And then I also have a Duesenberg Star Player TV at my office at the church right now. So the rest of these that you see behind me are my roommate Cole's. He also plays at Red Rocks Church. He's a graphic designer, but he plays on the weekends and at youth and our young adults ministry too. So he's a big guitar nerd too. So those are his.
Awesome. Doug, I've got my Veritas up on the screen if you want to patch me in. This is my definite go-to. So great plug to Veritas.
Yeah.
Portlander Custom. Love it. Love the headstock. So unique. I know a lot of people are not huge fans of it, but what a great
I
Christian
love it.
brother. And
Yeah.
I love it so much. This is my go-to right here.
Yep.
Wonderful
Love
guitars.
Veritas guitars. I hopefully will own at least like 5 of them someday. So whenever we hit it
Agreed.
big time, that's when I'll have all these custom orders put in. But for now, just
Well,
rocking the one and play it just about every week. So
next year, my friend. This is the
yeah,
year.
hopefully.
All right. Doug, what do you think? Do you want to hear a little sound sample from Colton? What are you thinking?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So do you just kind of want to hear the different overdrive tones? I probably won't do a lot of talking in the beginning because I got to turn off my mic.
Sure.
So I'll just kind of sample everything, but I'll go through the chain. I'll go through the lamb first, then the kilt with the boost, then the lion, and then the screamer fuzz at the end. Just so
Sounds
y'all
good.
can hear everything, and then I'll just kind of talk about my philosophies with each of those after I'm done playing and sampling those, if that's cool with y'all.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Awesome, sweet.
Woohoo!
So let me turn off my mic and. Yeah,
Man,
so
that
as you can
screamer.
tell, that last one was the screamer fuzz. So
Yeah,
it's
you can tell when it
it's a
kicked on.
lot of it's a lot of fun. And
It made me
so
laugh. I enjoyed it.
yeah, I mean it doesn't sound bad, especially it works amazing on lead lines, like single note lead lines. So I use that along with my micropog for a lot of the lead lines. So it was more of like an octave fuzz thing. So it just
Yep.
really cuts through the mix for the big moments of the songs, like "Living God" that we just released a few weeks ago, and then we have another song coming out here in a couple weeks in July called "The Battle Is Yours," and I use it for a big instrumental section of there too. So usually if I use the
Awesome.
screamer fuzz, it's almost always paired with the nanopog for lead lines. That or I'm using it for just big fat rhythm, like power chords and things like that. Like on songs like Echo Holy and Breathe Miracles and songs like that. But I've been loving the Lion as an alternate for the screamer fuzz, and what I use it for. It's just really mid-range heavy and just chewy and thick. And so I've especially been loving it for like rhythm parts. Um, and so yeah, been loving that. The Lamb, kind of like what I talked about earlier, just more gets used um, in place of the kilt if I want something, just a different flavor of that first stage overdrive. So really it gets used for a lot of like intro parts of like Living God and things like that. Just more clean stuff. And then the kilt is my mainstay. I love that thing. And then I'll throw on the boost if I want that same sound just a little bit louder. And then
Awesome.
the Lion and the Screamer Fuzz are just ice cream flavors on top of that. So
Great. Yeah, they sound amazing. I appreciate it.
yeah, I could play Overdrive pedals all day, every day, and just be content. So I don't think your mic's on, Doug.
Thank you.
He's got too.
You're
He's
welcome.
got too many cameras and switchers
I
back
got
there.
too many
I know.
cameras and too many toys. Ironically, the idea of some sort of larger switcher that enables you to toggle between sorts of things, as opposed to running things kind of inline. Which obviously, everybody has a preference. What's yours?
Yeah, so I use the MCX MIDI switcher, and really I kind of have an old school approach about it. I don't have it turning on and off different overdrives and things like that. Literally, all I have it do is banking up and down presets on my stomp, because my wet effects are really easy to get between. I have a few sounds that I need and that I really like. And so I just need to cycle through those quickly. And then I'm doing more tap dancing on the overdrive side. But usually it's always, the war horn is always on, just tone shaping my amps. And then the kilt is usually always on. And so then anything after that, when I'm tap dancing, it's just to add a big reverb, or it's to add a boost, so either the Lion or the Screamer Fuzz. And so it really isn't as much tap dancing as it sounds like, even though I have 5 overdrives, just because the way I have everything gain structured. I can just, hey, look who's here now.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Loud and clear.
All right.
Brian, I gave him the MO that we're bringing fuzzes into worship, so.
That's right. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Come on. We need to make shirts. Fuzz is back.
Yeah, well, we can just buy them from that pedal show. It's all good.
Oh, yeah. That's true. They do have shirts like that already.
Yes.
Dang it.
But,
Okay, so let me try and rope the show into some sort of order. Colton is going to hang out. We're going to figure out how we're going to kind of do some sort of powwow. What we wanted to do here was give Bradford and Brian an opportunity to kind of talk about their take about all of this, because I love everything they do. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to jump over here, and we're going to put Colton in the green room, but not totally. So Colton, just hang out, and
Cool.
we'll be bringing you back shortly for more infinite wisdom and more drive pedals. So let's see here. Hang on a second. All right. So Colton, thanks so much, man.
yeah,
don't
guys,
go
thanks so
away.
much. I won't. I'll stick close by.
Okay, let's see if I can do this. Here we go.
Appreciate it, man. Good talking with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great joining you guys.
We go, and let's
Hey,
add this handsome
Bradford.
guy
Well,
here.
hey.
There we go. Oh, hey, we got a
Face
4
is
up.
large. Oh, look at that. Oh, don't. Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
Nice.
Look at my wall. I'm so embarrassed. I wasn't prepared for y'all to see my wall of.
There are gaps there, Bradford. I am very. I don't quite know what to say.
Well, there's a pedal board over there. There's 2 pedal boards over there, and then there's a 3rd pedal board over with Mason over at Vertex. So that's where the gaps are, or why there are gaps.
Okay, so gentlemen, I would like to yield the floor to your infinite wisdom. So as we kind of did a little bit of pre-production last night, we kind of rocked through some of the things that we wanted to talk about and kind of bring forward. One of the things you guys like to do that's different than what Junior likes to do is you like to run your overdrive. No, wait. Yes, your overdrive and your distortion. So Brian, you were talking about headroom and how you manipulated all of that. And I
Yeah.
really just want to yield the floor just in general. So you know what? Just take it away, genius.
So Bradford and I were talking about this earlier today. We were playing, we put a little board together in the room with the lion and the lamb. And we were talking about pedal drive and distortion pedal order. And there's 2 ways you can sort of approach it. One of the ways, Bradford, you were talking about, one of the things you think of is whatever is last, whatever the final pedal is, sort of has the more overall tonal impact on the sound. So if you have a tube screamer as your final pedal, you're gonna get this, because that's what a tube screamer does, right? It pushes the
That's what it
mids.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you put it first and you run it into like a blues breaker type of a drive, which has a much more, open sound, you won't get as much. It'll push the mids will push through the blues breaker style drive, but you won't get quite that tube screamer impact if it's not last. And that's how you think of it, Bradford. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's
when
you're
a tube
ordering
screamer,
things.
Yeah, a tube screamer pushing a drive pedal just gives a really cool sound.
Is
It
a beautiful thing.
It just like gives that drive pedal further in the chain more mids. So it's really cool, but if you put the tube screamer last, you're probably going to lose. And this is all, there are so many variables that go into this. So this isn't like infinite. Doug said infinite wisdom, but this isn't like the end all be all like Bible on the tone. Tone is so subjective, and that's what's so wonderful.
It's true.
So yeah, tube screamer at the end is really going to mean that, to me, it means that tube screamer kind of takes over. And if that's the sound you want, if that's the sound you want, then put it last. Whatever sound you want more prominent, in line, it makes sense further down. So yeah.
Yeah, and one thing you can think of too is headroom. So this is something I learned from watching that pedal show, and it really kind of opened my eyes to it, because I have run into many situations where I'm stacking drives and I turn on the last drive to get bigger, and like nothing really gets. Everything just sounds a little more saturated, but you don't get more volume, and that's because you've basically tapped out your headroom in your drive section. And one of the things that they talk about doing on that episode that I have done is if you put your higher gain pedals first and your lower gain pedals last, then your lower gain your pedals that you're using with lower gain have more headroom available. So for example, if you use the distortion, the Lion first into the Lamb, and you run the Lamb at a lower gains, type of a setting, which a blues breaker style pedal typically has, it's a lower gain drive. You can turn on the Lion and you've got your big, distortion tone, and then you turn on the Lamb after it and it pushes it. You get a lot more lift out of it in that sort of a situation. So that's another way I like to think about it is headroom. And if you keep your higher headroom pedals further down in the chain, you can sort of get more volume out of it if that's what you're going for. So that's another trick that I've picked up along the way.
Yeah,
and that's another feature where we've added into the line is we've got multiple different clipping options, and that's exactly what it's doing. It's adjusting your headroom. It actually starts out. It starts out in the most compressed, so it's got a pair of silicone diodes, and it's really squashing that signal. So you got your sine wave here, and your clipping diodes are really cutting it off way down low. So then what we've done there is we've added a second circuit, which adds some asymmetrical silicone diodes, which then just raises that threshold up to where you're getting a little more headroom. And then our third stage, we have a pair of red LEDs, and those offer the most amount of headroom, and they cut off just the very top of your sounding wave, which gives you that way more headroom, more sound. So with the ability to have MIDI, you can kind of boost or manipulate how you kind of want to have these things pushing into your other pedals. Do you want a really saturated, thick lead line sound, or do you want to switch to a different circuit with some more headroom and really get that big volume lift, like you're saying?
That is that's awesome that you can change the headroom. It's a really thinking about it's a very technical approach to like, some people just like, you turn the thing on and the pedal sounds great in that order, and that's what I'm going to use. Like, that's the approach most guitar players have. But when you take a much more like technical approach, or if you spend the time, and a pedal like these pedals that offer so much, not even to mention the MIDI programmability, but the fact that you can change the clipping, the way they sound and the way they react with other pedals. If you really spend time understanding that, you can get so much out of like a single overdrive pedal. It's pretty awesome. So
Yeah,
that's where the scientist nerd in me loves the music side of things. Yes.
That's our whole philosophy. I'd rather have. I used to have a really big board, and I'm going to more condensed. But I want to be able to have. I still want to have all my options. So that's kind of what's pushing and driving Jet Pedals, is just giving us all the ability to have the options, but not trying to sacrifice the great analog-ish, the analog signal path and the things that we still need. Now obviously the reverb's not analog, but we're talking about drives tonight, so. But anyways, I figured that would be neat to throw that out. And another cool thing that I wanted to bring up is we don't talk about much, but since when you're changing your headroom in there, if you think about your sine wave as like a voltage signal, if you have more voltage, you're going to have more volume. It's just going to be louder, and it's basically what we've been talking about. The more headroom, the louder it's going to be. But when you're jumping around these circuits within the pedal, I don't want to have you have huge volume spikes and jumps when they're in the middle of playing. So we've put in there what we call a volume leveling technology, to where what it does is it takes your loudest volume with the most headroom, and it just reduces that volume down, almost like a compressor, but there's not a compressor built in, but kind of similar in technology, to where the goal is to try and keep all three different circuits with different headroom at the same volume, if that makes sense. They all react, they all feel different, they have a different squishiness to it, a different sound to it, but they all have the same volume. So that's another cool thing we built in there.
Very good.
Nerdy,
very nice.
the nerdy side.
And
I love it. Yes.
We brought Colton back in just so you guys can riff on a few of these themes here. So, hang on, let me jump over here for a quick second. Hi. So, what we want to do is just kind of, open up the floor a little bit. And by the way, folks, feel free to bring some questions. But, the great thing is everybody's got their own approach. So I know that Bradford is a fan of the PBC 6X. And the idea of both being able to just kind of have, you step on one foot switch, you've got a preset that pulls up all the things that you want. You can step on another foot switch. It has loop reordering. So if you want to change the order of your drive pedals literally from preset to preset, and it makes a world of difference. And it's a really cool world where in one song you might want it one way and want it the other. And then you start adding all this line and lambadry to the mix. It kind of gets really, really cool very quickly. So I would love it if you guys would kind of riff on kind of how you really take this and not just geek out on it, but apply it in a musical framework, more specifically so as anybody who's watching maybe like, hey, this is some suggestions as you go from section to section, song to song.
Yeah, I can give you a little insight on how I use mine. So we talk on how I use my pedal board. I know, like you said, we're all different. Kind of like Colton said earlier, he uses the MCX to switch patches on his stomp, and then the stomp will usually has all his BPMs programmed into there per song. So I kind of use the MCX as my main brain for my whole pedal board. Since I have the line and lamb on my pedal board, let me grab it here real quick. So this is my board. Modulation, reverb, drives, controller. That's about it. Compression. So I use the MCX as my main hub. I program in every song into a patch on the MCX. So if we're playing 4 or 5 or 6 songs in the morning, the MCX has 8 different banks. So I've got plenty of room to do one bank per song. What I usually do is when I first fire my first button, I have up to 16 messages that the MCX can send. And what that usually does is it sends out my MIDI BPM, so they're going to sync my BPM to the song. And then it just turns on all my delays, it turns on all my reverbs, turns on my drive section, and then I'm ready to go for the intro to the song. And then I just program various like bridge, chorus, swells, things like that into the other button presses. and I'll just use that on a per song basis. So I kind of have my MCX as the main hub, and it controls the whole MIDI portion of my board. So that's how I use it.
Bueller?
I mean, I'll share some stuff. I don't know, in the last several years, I have gotten to try a lot of different stuff, and I realized that I'm very picky and I'm very snobby about what I use. And like, if I plug something in and it doesn't speak to me right away, I'm like, why is it worth my time to do it? But at the same time, though, if my amp is not set the way I like it, or if my amp is not situated in like the right way, no drive pedal is gonna work for me. And I say that because kind of like the way I see it is, at least with overdrive pedals, when you start talking about distortion, which I don't typically use all that often. I'd say like the kilt is like an overdrive and a distortion, depending on how you run it. And I use one of those pretty regularly. I also use a Rockbox boiling point. That's typically like low gain anyways for like the Lincoln Brewster, Jimi Hendrix style plexi tones. It's like not necessarily for like, as much as I like listening to gent, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going for those tones. But if you're trying to, if your amp isn't set the way that you like it, or it's not set in such a way that reacts the way you want it, a drive pedal is gonna, of any kind, or a boost is just gonna, it's just gonna do weird things. So I like to run the volume of the drive pedal harder to push the amp, and then use gain on the pedal appropriately. If you swap that and you use more gain on the pedal and you start bringing the volume back, you're going to get more character of the pedal, not the amp. And so, some pedals you can use any pedal almost to do whatever. Like I have a Boss DS1 sitting in my closet. I think everybody has like a Boss DS1 or a Boss Metal Zone almost. I think it's pretty like, I think everybody has at least one of those two. You could, if I dialed the gain back, but I just push the volume, like you can almost use it that way. And as you start, it's almost like a blend. As you start adding gain, it's like adding more of the character of the pedal into it. And so for me, that's part of the reason why I'm a huge, like if I could only choose one style overdrive pedal that I'd want some variation of a blues breaker. To me, it's like very amp-like. Which I guess really is the goal, because there's the JTM 45, which is a blues breaker. Whatever, Doug, I could be wrong in the nomenclature, but aren't they basically one and the same? Or there's more specifics between the JTM 45 and the blues breaker, right? Like there's something about that. You're probably busy doing some other things and muted at the moment, but
I thought the blues breaker was the combo that Marshall built. He could put it in the boot of his car, in the trunk of his car, right?
212 combo.
Yeah, but it's a JTM like, 45, like at its
the
heart,
way they're
right?
delivered, but they're the same thing.
Yeah.
So hang on, switching modes here. I'm going to Google that because I am not 100%.
Eric Clapton, by the way. Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. Sorry. So yeah.
John Mayall.
Sorry, jumping in. So we are talking about John Mayall, Eric Clapton. Blues Breaker was kind of this classic tone. It was that would have been.
Y'all taking notes? Y'all taking notes? The
that would have been the burst.
The burst, the Les Paul, yeah.
And so this was kind of a whole thing. That's okay. No, so this is a good left turn. So. We just need to go here. So, Bradford, you opened Pandora's stomp box. So, we're just going to choose to go there. So,
isn't that a Korg pedal? Isn't Korg have a Pandora?
Yeah, but nobody's created. All right. So the thing is, all of this stuff started with the basement circuit. Makes it
right.
And Junior is actually a much better person to tell the story because he'll actually get it all right. But the idea is there were these RCA, as I understand it, 2 books. And they had these amp building schematics. And so the Bassman was the first one. It made its way over to the UK. That's basically where the Marshall came. So if you listen to a vintage Bassman and you listen to a vintage Marshall, they're related. And so Marshall kept wanting, thanks to guys like Pete Townsend, more and more volume and more gain. And the idea was that there was a period of time, and Worship's a great example of that, is not everybody wants a bunch of 412 cabinets to haul around, including your sound tech. Townsend, on the other hand, was like, more is good, which I can appreciate. It's kind of like Colton. It's like, more drive pedals is a good thing. And the idea is that when you get that swirl of sound, a good swirl, right? Then there's something very special happening. You're moving air. So the point being is that there are, and the interesting thing is that many of our favorite classic records were done at best on a 4-track. So they're stereo, but they're not stereo like we're used to hearing. Like if you listen to the vintage Beatles, Ringo's over on one side playing his drum kit. It's not across the stereo field, but yet they were stereo recordings. So the concept of how guitar players use their sound, it was a mono approach. So stereos, we see it, and the idea of utilizing 2 different amps as Colton is using, the idea that I use 2 different AC30 fonts, so we're basically speaking much the same love language, and a lot of the presets that I start off with, I'll just get something from Worship Tutorials and kind of bastardize it. I hope I didn't offend anybody. Those guys, yes. And then, again, my whole thing is I always go for the, hang on, can I plug this in?
They're the best.
Those guys are awesome. Where is this thing? And again, my favorite thing in the whole wide world, how is it that this isn't making any, I've done it over here. The favorite thing in the whole world is this. The way those delays, dotted eighth on one side, quarter note on the other, and the modulation on the trails. I absolutely love that sound, and it just, what happens is in the framework of the band, a lot of that disappears, and you're just left with this little bit of ambience, and then of course you got to have.
Johnson played ambience in Worship. That's what that sounded like. That was beautiful, Doug.
Thank you. No, I am so and I'm constantly. Worship is basically stealing Eric. Thank you very much. Ripping Eric Johnson off every chance I get. So that root fifth third. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's jazz.
Yeah.
Just play the right note.
Playing some jazz for the kids.
That was an Office reference.
I just love that swirl. And so I actually don't have the Juliana, and I'm done geeking out because I want to keep it about you guys. But the demo for the Juliana, I don't know if you guys, Colton's nodding his head. I heard that and I was like, ugh. It's one of those examples where you're like, I can't believe how great that sounds. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good. So I am going to see if I can find out for sure if it was a JTM that was in the Bluesbreaker combo. So I'm going to let you guys have at it.
Well, I'll say this about Bluesbreaker type drives. They're typically lower gain overdrives. Like you can't get a whole bunch of gain typically out of a Bluesbreaker style pedal. But typically, not with the Lamb. That thing has a ton of gain on tap. Like you can run it low gain and it sounds really good, but you can also, it's so versatile in the fact that it, like you can really gain it up and it sounds great too. And then you can MIDI control that, of course. Yeah, and the mid thing, anytime you can push mids with a pedal, it makes me happy. So,
Let's see if I can get
Yeah,
to the right
it's really
Chrome
cool.
window.
It's really
Hang
cool.
on just 1 second. There we go. No, wait. Is that it?
This is some camera acrobatics that Doug Doppler.
Look at that.
No, this is camera
impressive.
failure. Hang on a second.
Well,
Where the
Bradford,
heck
that
did
is
my-
not a camera. That is a screen share.
Yeah,
Yes.
hang on
That is
just
a-
1
is that a
second.
video
Where the
picture?
heck did my... Oh, because I'm in the wrong bloody browser. There we go. So take a look at that
There it
goodness. Bradford, what do those letters say? Can you see that on
That
your...
says JTM.
That says JTM.
That's right.
So,
John
Yeah, I
Taylor
think
Mayer.
the Blues Breaker was a JTM 45.
So, and then you get into these JTM 100s, which were like that's the Fashizli amp to have. That's the one you
Yeah,
want.
I didn't know they had JTM 100.
That's a buddy of mine's got one, and the idea is you want the little one with the black flag. That's the one.
I'm gonna guess they sound different, as apart from being just more wattage and therefore louder. It'll tonally sound different, right? Because of the transformers are different, the power is different, everything, right?
And it unlike the day, Junior, without calling you out directly, we're in the middle of a pandemic. When you're sourcing parts to build pedals and you have a schematic, you know that some small substitution of the same value is going to have a different sound. You could have, again, 2 different silicon fuzz boxes from the same manufacturer, and you plug into them, and they ain't going to sound the same. So this is that era in time. They were, you got to understand, and I hope I don't offend anybody, this was the 60s. Like, they were thinking about other stuff. They were distracted.
It's history. Just history.
And it's history, and it's part of, honestly, why they actually chose to do some of the crazy stuff that they did. And I'm gonna butt myself out in just a moment. But if you guys get a chance to watch the coolest pedal demo / story, the Boss Mark II. Oh gosh, Yardbirds, Stones, come on, the fuzz pedal.
Tone bender.
Thank you. Watch the
There you
Boss Tone Bender Mark II video. It's unbelievably cool because it talks about the birth of the stomp box and really the birth of the whole boutique thing that came out of the idea of like, let's do this thing, and it just revolutionized the world. And it's the son of one of the guys who founded one of the shops, and he's got all these tone benders, and it is.
Is it McCarty's? Is that the shop in London? I know it's something like that because I know I've heard this before.
Its Boss partnered with them and found these I think they're silicone diodes, and they made this limited run, and they're now like $1,500 to $3,000 for a Boss pedal on Reverb.
That's insane.
And half the
That's
people
awesome.
watching went, really? There's your fuzz pedal. All right, I'm done. Doppler out. Sorry.
All right. Anyways, you were just talking about how we were using our setups and our boards, and Bradford, I know you were talking about your amps and how you really want to get your core amp tone dialed in first before you even start bringing in pedals.
Yeah. Otherwise it's, I don't know. I mean, and yeah, that was basically it. I started going off on a tangent myself even, but I was bringing it back around to the reason we were here. To talk about that the Lamb is a wonderful offering in the world of a blues breaker, and I liken it to, I'm a big fan of cheeseburgers. That's not new news. That's not new news to those who follow worship tutorials. Brian and I regularly partake in cheeseburgers. But you can go to, depending on what you're looking for, you can get a cheeseburger at Wendy's, you can get a cheeseburger at McDonald's, you can get a cheeseburger at In-N-Out. They're fast food burgers. You can go to Red Robin. There's some local joints around here I like to go get cheeseburgers from. But at the end of the day, nobody is going to eat one of those things and say, "Oh man, that doesn't taste like a cheeseburger," because that doesn't taste like this cheeseburger that I had over here. Like, no, you're dumb. All cheeseburgers taste like cheeseburgers. But what you're saying is you just prefer one cheeseburger over the other. And there are a plethora of many great overdrives that all taste similar in some ways, but the way they're presented and the extra flair that the designer puts on there is what keeps you. Oh, is that John O? John O, he has a.
I was
he
going to
has a burger
say,
stand.
Bradford,
I need to go out there.
we're no longer the experts on cheeseburgers since John has entered the chat. He can trump us.
I think he's close to Anaheim. He mentioned maybe bringing his burger cart up to NAMM one year. I don't.
Yeah, I think he's in California, Southern California somewhere. Yeah.
Yes.
John, if we're at NAMM in California, John, I would like to partake in one of your delicious cheeseburgers. That's all I have to say. Sorry, Bradford.
And in the term of overdrive pedals, there's no reason to say that one overdrive pedal. So I love the take that Junior did offer, especially different clipping options. It really gives you in MIDI. It's 2021. And the fact that we can control analog pedals digitally, and look at that, that's beautiful. I don't know what kind of delay I have on all of a sudden, like I'm on like a 5-second delay on the Ecamm thing, so I don't know what the heck's going on. But that's a beautiful cheeseburger. So I appreciate greatly what Mr. Junior, Mr. Senior Junior. I call him Senior because he's that good at what he does. I'm promoted him to Senior.
Yay!
So yeah. Anyway.
Well, I appreciate that plug. Yeah, that's just a big core value that I want as part of Jet Pedals. Is I don't want to just put out another. Okay, here's my analogy. You like cheeseburgers. I'm in Kansas City, so we like it to barbecue and barbecue sauces. Yeah, I actually do make a barbecue sauce. I'll have to bring some with me when we meet up in NAMM in a couple weeks.
You need to sell it on the Jet Pedals website and call it Jet Sauce.
I thought, hey, that would be awesome. I thought about doing little mini bottles, packaging it in with every pedal, and here's a little taste of Kansas City. That's kind of corny, but I thought about it.
No, you should do that.
In 2013, I actually got published in the Best of Kansas City Barbecue book for my barbecue sauce that took 7th in the world at the American What? So, yes. Yeah, I'm a huge barbecue guy, if you couldn't tell. We're way off track now, but I liken it to barbecue sauces. Everyone's going to have an overdrive. They all taste similar, right? They're all very similar. It's just what flair you put on it. And I couldn't just put out another barbecue sauce that tasted like everyone else. I had to do something unique. I want to do more with less. That's our philosophy, and that's kind of why we did the MIDI and the different mid boosts and features and things like that in the pedals. So appreciate that.
I love it. Yeah. No, I love that. I think, and also the thing that I appreciate about you is like, because I run the WT Instagram and in my own, and it's in general, like anybody who has spent any time on a gear group of any kind can attest to. It seems like that the overwhelming amount of questions are what is the most. It's related around like how can I get the most for my money? That's really what people are asking.
Yeah.
And so like even if you don't love blues breakers and a straightforward blues breaker, you can still get the Lamb and dial in more mids and use the clipping options and actually completely transform it. Like the mids are like they're not to the point where you're turning yourself into a tube screamer, but like you can hear the signal. Like I actually, this actually be fun, Brian. Let's do this tomorrow. Record the signal in Logic as you play and turn the mid knob up, and I want to see what the sound form does, the waveform does. Because like it's not like it's super dramatic, but like it changes how it feels under your fingers. And to me, like that's like reverbs and overdrives. Like they need to feel good under my fingers. And because I don't care if anybody else can tell, like if it feels good on my fingers, it's going to make me play different and better, and it's going to inspire me more. So I love being able to add just a little bit of mids just to sweeten it ever so much. So
Yeah, it is. It's designed to be very subtle. Unlike the Tube Screamer, it boosts mids by actually cutting lows and highs. So it actually never touches your mids, to the best of my knowledge. It actually cuts your highs and your lows. And we're doing the opposite. We leave your signal intact, your lows, your highs. But the mid boost knob is more like a volume knob, so where it's turned off, it's just off. And then as you turn it up, it's just giving you more volume of a set frequency. And so it's very subtle as you dial it in.
It is.
Yeah, and
I like it though.
You were telling me what, so it's also a little higher frequency wise. It's like we keep talking Tube Screamer, but it's what's known as like the mid boost thing. But yours is a higher frequency, like 650, 6 something like that.
I think Tube Screamer is around 720, and we're a little above that, closer to about 1,000. So it's a little more clarity. It's a high mid.
Yeah. Hey guys.
Yeah.
So I have reached the maximum number of guests, and our dear friend,
gotta kick us out,
Cooper. No, I just need to boot one person, but we can cycle people back. So I don't quite know. I can't boot myself because otherwise the whole thing would go kaput.
Doug, I'm going to be honest. It's 10:15 in North Carolina, and I've been slowly going downhill for the last 45 minutes. This is so
Bradford out.
Brian just texted me. He goes, "Volunteer as tribute."
Just
Bradford.
Hi, Bradford.
Much love. You're being removed from the broadcast, and we love you to death. Thank you so much for making the time, my dear friend.
I'm so old. I'm losing steam. So I love these things. I understand the time thing is difficult, but I appreciate being able to be a part.
Bradford, we will get cheeseburgers tomorrow, Bradford. I'll see you then.
Oh man, don't tease me.
That'll pump you back up.
no tease.
Hey, thanks, Bradford. I appreciate your time. Your time today.
Appreciate you guys.
And
we'll
your insights, as always.
Thank you.
Good night.
We'll see you.
All right, here we go. Jimmy.
Where's
he at?
There we go. Come on.
There he is.
There he is.
It's Jimmy.
What's up?
Hi, Jimmy.
How's it going? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
There we go.
I hear a little delay. I can hear you.
It sounded like somebody else was speaking to you, but way off in the distance. Are you guys hearing that?
Yeah.
Oh, now we've got a little echo going on. Oh, that's
weird. Yeah.
I got my headphones in.
Yeah, I
Jimmy
can hear
broke
that.
The internet.
We broke the internet. No, we do have, but it seems pretty mild. How hot are your headphones, Jimmy? And we're not blaming you. This little thing happened when you appeared.
It's just you're the new guy, so I mean.
You're the new guy.
Man, I don't know. I don't know. So I'm just delayed. What, you can't hear me?
Whatever you just did actually helped. And even if you did nothing, by the way, you guys, hang on a second. Hold on a second.
It's like the audio engineer, acting like he's moving faders, but he's really doing nothing.
No, Colton, you're reading my mail. The opposite version, the sound tech is like, man, the guitar's a little loud. It's like, oh, hang on a second. Okay. Turn the volume off.
Yeah.
You wait a second. You go down, and you look really busy on the board. And you go like, how's that? And they're like, oh, that's way better. And then they mute your fader. But the point being, so Jimmy, one of the things that we love about you is that you're like the car that's coming on strong. I kind of, I love to see who's kind of doing what on YouTube. And you have really kind of done a great job of bringing excellence and quality and integrity and leadership and just a great attitude and super high production value. So it is really exciting to have you in the mix here. And for those of you that MIDI is this 4-letter word, that was one of the comments that I saw. The short version of one of the reasons of many that we wanted to have Jimmy in the mix was he comes from the idea of like, hey, worship leader, hey, you're strumming this acoustic guitar, you're making this jump to actually adding some, some stuff, And you know what? Hang on. Let me hold on. I'm gonna be Jimmy's worship leader example. Let's see if I can do it. Okay. So
I'm excited about this.
Okay, so you got. There we go. Oh, look at you! I love this guy. PayPal. So the thing is that we're taking the basic vibe of what we do on the acoustic guitar and bringing it over the electric guitar, which means immediately somebody goes, "Oh, well, of course you've got to then add." You got to add the Jet Revelation reverb. I mean, come on. And then they're like, and hey, by the way, while you're at it, next up, maybe a little delay. And whether it's, hey, worship leader or worship tutorials, you got to get some. And soon, probably my buddy Colton Sanchez is going to have some presets as well. You got to get some presets for HX Stomp because it's great. It'll fit in your gig bag. It's everything you need. And then you got to start off with some sort of. Good morning, everybody.
That's it.
Go ahead and stand up.
Come on in the room.
Yeah.
Welcome
hey, you in
home.
the car. Get off your phone. Haven't you also wanted to say it? Get off your stinking phone.
Put your
Of course,
coffee
this is
down.
actually a church social media person. But the point being is that the idea is it's this kind of on-ramp that honestly, if we're really honest, all of us, as much as we're gear fanatics, I think it can be intimidating to on-ramp new gear. Like the idea is that you're going to get something, other people can do it, and you don't know what the heck you're doing with it. And so that's where, especially somebody that comes from the perspective of, hey, worship leader, that's your entry point. That's really exciting for us at Worship Musician and the Worship Guitar Show, and just as part of this community, where you're coming from and all of that. So the other thing that you talked about, I am going to show one quick little thing here, because you are also going to be responsible for the MIDI conversation. So I want to show one little thing here. Oh, I can do it from here. So basically, each one of these devices, as you're looking, sorry, I was off center. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. For the anal retentive out there, my sincere apologies. But the idea is you look down on this stuff. The concept, I'm going to jump into your MIDI mapping thing. And Jimmy, again, the whole point is I got to warm the room up for you without stealing your thunder.
You've already said everything I was going to say.
Too late.
No, I'm just kidding. The sound effects, we got it.
It sounds way better with a whammy bar. So the point being, though, is you can basically set all these devices. It's like this guy is talking to this guy, which is talking to this guy. And each one of these has the ability to exist on basically its own phone number. And this is as far as I'm going to go, but I just really wanted to demonstrate this because Junior and I were actually hanging out doing this. And so basically, I'm going to unplug this guy. And then when I plug it back in and I hold this down right here, so there you go. You can see that this guy's tapping 1, 2, 3. So that means this is on MIDI channel 3.
Wow.
So if I want to change that, I unplug this guy. I plug it back in again. And now, Junior, I hit preset one more time, or do I hit bypass?
Preset. Hit preset. You gotta hold down bypass the whole time.
Moron. That's me. I'm calling me the moron, not Jimmy. Or not Junior. All right, so the idea is now I just hit this. So it's blinking 3 times. I hit this one more time. And it's blinking 4 times. So basically that means I just switched that to MIDI channel 4. And the cool thing about this is this guy, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 1, 2, 3. It should be back blinking 1, 2, 3. There you go. So I just moved it from MIDI channel 3 to 4 to kind of up to 16 and then back to 3. That sort of programmability from this box means that you can have all different sounds happening, control it really easily, because ideally you want each one of these devices on its own MIDI channel, because it's like a phone number, but the ability to change which MIDI channel this thing is on that easily, Junior, you are a genius. And so I don't want to talk about MIDI mapping because I really want to, but I wanted to show that little hat trick because that is flippin' awesome.
That is great. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see if I can, let's see here. Hang on a second. I'm going to give Junior and let's
Jimmy?
see which one of these handsome devils. There we go. There we go. Junior and Jimmy,
There he
take it
is.
away, please.
What's up, man?
Jimmy,
We're here.
how you doing?
Man,
Good seeing you, man.
You look good. I like the new studio. It's
Thanks.
looking sharp.
Appreciate it. I got my lessons from you. I like your setup there.
Yeah, man.
So, hey, we wanted to talk about MIDI. We wanted to talk about MIDI being a 4-letter word, being scared of MIDI, and kind of about how we met. We got started on the micro, moved into the MCX, and what's that journey been like for you, and what's it like going from absolutely no MIDI experience into where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, people that don't know, I just started off as a worship leader playing acoustic, like he said. I like helping worship leaders, so I try to bring people along. That's what my channel's all about. And
Love it.
it's been a journey. I started playing electric. I just had like an OD3 and a tuner pedal for years. That's all I had, and I was like, I need a delay. I think my first delay was the Line 6 Echo Park, which was cool because it had like
Awesome.
tap and then on and off. That's still a great pedal for the price. But when I got a hold of I got the Stomp because I had surgery and stuff. You can go on my channel and look up the story for people watching. But I needed a lighter rig rather than a big old heavy pedal board. So I'm into like small stuff that I can handle. And one of the things about the Stomp is that it's so small. It's only got 3 switches. But I didn't want one of the bigger. I didn't want to go Helix. I didn't want HX effects and all that stuff. I liked the smallness of it, and to put it on a mini board, a mini MIDI board. And so when I got the micro, it's like I could call it the gateway into MIDI pedal, like because I was scared of MIDI. I was like, I don't even know what it is. And so the micro, for those that don't know, it's the same as the MCX, which is this little pedal here. I think you could see it on the top down shot of Doug's shot. You got one there? I already sold mine because now I've graduated to the MCX. But what's cool about the micro is that people are listening. They're like, I just want something easy.
I have an empty enclosure.
Nice. What I love about that, and I actually run my MCX very similar to how the micro is set up, where it just calls up snapshots, but I can remain in stomp mode on the Stomp. And so, and I can do, pull up different snapshots. I can scroll preset. So I don't know can y'all see my pedal board?
Hang on. Let me give you give me just one moment. I need to give you a solo scene. Give me a sec. I'm going to, Junior, nothing personal.
I'm out.
There we go.
It's okay.
There we go.
I zoomed in a little here so you guys could see.
Hey, I got one quick question, Junior. I'm sorry, Jimmy.
Yes.
My bad. All the J's are driving me nuts here. Can you briefly, for people who do not speak Helix, talk about the difference between presets, the fact that patches and presets are the same, and the nuance of what snapshots are and what Stomp Box mode is? Pretty please.
Yeah, that's no problem. Presets, and a lot of people do like a song per preset, and I've started doing something a little different just to test it out. But you basically pull up a preset, and that is like your pedal board. You have whatever effects, amp, cab, delays, that's your pedal board. Nothing changes in that pedal board unless you go to a new preset, and you can have a whole new pedal board if you want. That's the cool thing about it. Snapshots are like little pictures inside of a preset. And so on the Stomp, you get 3. On the Stomp XL, you get 4 snapshots. I think you get 8 on the Helix. And what you can do is when you switch snapshots, you can call up different parameter changes within that preset. I hope that's not confusing. I try to make it as simple as possible, but you can,
So
by switching
you can change
from snapshot-
settings.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to cut you off. It'd be like changing settings on your pedal instead of changing pedals out. Does that make sense? In that analogy?
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
magic
and you
is
can
what-
do. It really is. You can do multiple with one foot switch. So watch this. I have a demonstration. Okay, I'm gonna stay in one preset.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go to preset, the next preset down. So I'm gonna back up, and I don't know if y'all could see, but I had my overdrive and my boost just come on. I'm in snapshot 1, so I'm gonna stay. Nothing's gonna change over here as far as going from one preset to another. All these changes are in the same preset. So you have the advantages of this, Doug, as you were asking. When you go from preset to preset, since you could be changing amps and different reverbs, there's a slight cut, so you don't have like trails or spillover. But when you go from snapshot to snapshot, you have trails or spillover with your effects, which is very clean. And so I've actually been running just super simple, because that's what I'm all about, right? I don't want to be simple. I'll have like 3 songs on one preset and use snapshot 1 as song 1, snapshot 2 as song 2, snapshot 3 as song 3, and then I stay in stomp mode and I change things on the fly if I want, or I just pre-program them. So today, I actually played tonight. Song 1 were these settings. Song 2 were those settings. I shut that off. The delay stayed on. It changed some parameters in there on the amp. Song 3, my modulation came on, my reverb came on, and just for you guys tonight, which I didn't use this tonight, but you guys can see that it's also changing the lamb here. So the lamb is off. We got the overdrive on, snapshot 3, overdrive goes off, and the preset comes on. I say overdrive, the bypass, the preset comes on, go back, they can both come on, go back to the first snapshot, they all go off. So that's like the ease of what this brings. And so me as a worship leader, if I can just think about 3 buttons rather than all the other buttons, that is a win for me. So that's why getting into MIDI has been such an easy thing. Yes, it's complicated at first, but it's really saved me a lot of headache, like when I'm actually leading worship live. Does that make sense?
That's awesome.
Yes.
Is
I'm
anyone here?
confused.
I still don't get it.
Crickets.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest thing as you on-ramped to using MIDI? Was it fear of MIDI itself, or was there a particular thing that kind of was the biggest stumbling block for you? What gave you the hardest time at first?
Since I was coming from nothing, I was starting at ground level. I didn't even speak the language. I didn't even know. And honestly, phone calls with Junior, treating me, he's like, tell it to me like I'm an 8-year-old. And then he would talk to me and I'd be like, tell it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, Michael Scott. So I was just coming from the ground floor. And so I think the language, but once I started, I'm pretty quick. Once I started grasping it and understanding what's going on, then I'm like, oh, this is actually not that hard. This is pretty easy. And I can easily set it up to call up things I want to do. So then it like opened up different possibilities. And now you're like, man, I can do so much. And with the MCX now, it's not only controlling the stomp, you can control any MIDI pedal. It doesn't have to be routed through the stomp or anything. So that's the beauty of it. You can control Ableton with it. I've even controlled Ableton with the MCX, and then had Ableton control my board through the MCX. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So 2 main types of MIDI messages: program changes and CCs. Program changes, and I want to set you up to rock with this. I'm not trying to steal your thunder. Program changes are simply you're saying to HX Stomp, go to the next preset. Snapshots require a CC message, which says inside that preset, you're going to change from snapshot 1 to snapshot 2. That's where the magic really happens, where you're able to have that nuance on a separate pedal such that you can do that. So can you do me a favor, talk about kind of your nuance and your experience and your on-ramping to program changes, CC messages, and the fact that HX Stomp has 3 buttons. Now you've got 6 buttons to work with. What is your strategy about how you choose what button is going to do what, including MIDI cable dies, worship leader steps on it? You're now left with your HX Stomp, and that's all you got. What's your backup plan? Or whatever you choose to riff on.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, yeah, you can pull up snapshots on the HX Stomp. You know, you can go in snapshot mode, but then that's all you can do. And then you can't toggle anything on and off on the fly if you want. And I like the flexibility of being able to turn things on and off on the fly. And so that's what's so helpful about being able to call up snapshots with the MCX. The micro also does that. So that's what I loved about the micro. The cool thing about moving to the MCX is that it can do so much more. So at the same time, while it's doing that. So yeah, so the way I think about it, as long as I'm in stomp mode, if everything else goes down, somebody steps on my board, which I was at a youth event tonight and they were like playing games. They played like Iron Gut where they're like blending all these crazy nasty foods, and I was afraid someone's going to vomit on my board. And anyways, so yeah, crazy stuff can happen. If something like that were to happen, at least like on the stomp where my amp is, that's my main tone, I can still have that in stomp mode, be able to stay within that preset, that pedal board, and call up the effects I need. The cool thing about being able to have the MCX is that with the stomp in particular, you can also call up and change different parameters on effects that you aren't assigned, that you don't have assigned to these foot switches, because you only have 3, but I might have 5 effects that I want to make changes on. I can do that with the MCX. I can also then, with my Jet Revelation, change the control knob, the mix knob, and the decay all at once. I can change similar things on the Broken Arrow. I can have the Lion and the Lamb and change all those things because of how many MIDI messages can be sent through the MCX. One of the things about the Stomp is that they have now recently, I think with the 3.0 update, is they have Command Center, which is pretty awesome, but they only send 6 instant commands at a time. So if you know anything about MIDI messages, if you have more than one pedal, your MIDI messages get eaten up pretty quick. So that's what's cool about the MCX. It can send 16 at a time, and you can have them do whatever you want. So yeah, hope that answers the question. I love this rig. I love it. I also have the Disaster Area MIDI Box 4 under there, like I think I saw on your top down. It's all under, powered with Jock's DC7. One of these. Got another one over here, and yeah, love it. It's good. Junior's making some good stuff. When you told me you were making the MIDI overdrives, I was like, that's gonna be crazy, and it is. It's awesome. And y'all already hit on it, but one of my favorite things about the Lamb is this mid boost. Y'all were talking about it, but I was just listening. But that is a cool feature to add to the Blues Breaker circuit. So yeah, I love that. That's probably my favorite thing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Also, Bradford and I share similar passions about bedtime. We are only like 40 minutes away from each other, and I was like, dude, it is 10:40 here. So appreciate you guys having me on, but I'm gonna get in my bed over there.
I think Brian's just down the road from you, and he's not complaining one bit, but he may be getting tired too. I don't want to call him out.
I fell asleep.
I would stay up all night and sleep all day if it were socially acceptable, and my child would let me.
Brian, I think I'm you, but only 25. So
yeah,
I don't have the kid to. Because man, I fell right back asleep after our phone call this morning.
Oh, that's awesome. That doesn't last, unfortunately. Enjoy it while you can, my man.
Yeah.
Oh, I will.
That's awesome.
Well, awesome, Jimmy. I really appreciate you jumping on, hanging out. I appreciate the support you've given Jet Pedals and the love. I love all the comparison videos you've been doing with the Revelation, the MCX. You're wonderful. Love you, brother. Appreciate it.
Guys, See y'all.
Thanks so much for joining us.
See you,
Really,
Jimmy.
really, really appreciate it. Thank you,
Yeah,
my dear friend.
Enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Nice hat. I guess I got. So Jimmy, I'm gonna send you aloha here. Thanks again, my man. Oh no, he's gone. He's gone. Okay. Hey, so I did have a question that came in from Gary, and can they discuss the difference in using a multi-effects processor and actual board? Pros on processors, if there are any. And I'm going to briefly...
If there are any. There's no bias behind that at all.
He already has his answer.
All right,
He
Brian,
has his
you
mind made
obviously...
up.
Oh man,
Well,
yeah, that was
Okay.
that was perfect for Brian and Bradford, because Bradford he's a big pedalboard guy, and Brian, you're a big modeler guy. But why don't you take the modeler question?
Yeah. Okay. So any given Sunday or whenever I'm playing anything, I am typically using either an Axe-Fx 3 with an MC12, so all in one Axe-Fx, or I use a Line 6 Helix. Those are my main rigs. Although I did just build like a spaceship pedal board that I have yet to unveil to the public, but it's coming. And I'm telling you, I feel it feels like an alien creature to me. I have no idea what I'm doing with it. So I can talk about some pros to the all-in-one multi-effects unit. I have been doing that since the Pod XT Live, and I went back and forth between like amps and pedals, and then I was running an amp and a board, and then I switched over to the HD 500X from Line 6, and I had a good friend show me how to sort of coax everything out of it that it is capable of. And then I've kind of been an all in on the modeling thing since then. It has come a long, long way. I have done many, many, many hours of comparing, because I have like a room full of amps as well in here and pedals and things. And so, comparing an amp through something like the Universal Audio Aux or miking a cabinet, comparing that to the model of said amp in Line 6 or Fractal, it's often when you monitor them in the same way. So for example, if you mic an amp and record it and listen back to that versus playing the model of that in the Axe-Fx, it is very difficult to hear the difference. Now, if you're monitoring and if you're playing a tube amp combo in the room at like 110 decibels and it's hitting you in the chest, it's very difficult to recreate that with a modeler. So you have to sort of equalize the playing field. And then pedals are the same way. Like Bradford and I shot out the King of Tone, which he used to own, and then he got another one, and he gave me his old one. So Bradford, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Wow.
So we shot out his King of Tone versus the Heir Apparent on the Helix when they put it in there. And it was you couldn't tell the difference in many cases. Some people can, some people it's more difficult. It just kind of depends. So the modeling technology has gotten so good that it's often in an A-B situation where you just switch one to the other. It's often really difficult to tell the difference there. And certainly when you're playing live in a mix, like through in-ear monitors, it's even more difficult in that situation. Not to say, and we always say at Worship Tutorials, we always say, like, you should play what inspires you. So if you love pedals, you should play pedals. You shouldn't care about a guy like me saying that they sound the same. Like, who cares? If you love it, you should play it. Same thing with amps. Like, if you go down the endless rabbit hole of forums and Facebook groups, amps versus like, who cares? If you love amps, play amps. But I personally love the convenience of the all-in-one modeling solution, and it came because I was a guitar player that led worship, and so I did not have the capacity to look down and make 3 button presses. I needed one. So the way I do it is we do song patches, and I use the same patches that we sell at Worship Tutorials. And so, like, you know, we'll take Lion and the Lamb, since we're talking about the Lion and the Lamb pedals. So if you're playing the song, The Lion and the Lamb, you know, our song patch, it says riff, or the intro riff, and then verse 1, chorus. So it's like literally one button. And those are snapshots or scenes, as we've been talking about. So Fractal's version of snapshots is scenes. It's the same thing. And so the convenience factor for me is huge. And I, at this point, don't feel like I'm sacrificing on tone. But now somebody else can make I'm sure, a very compelling argument why you should use pedals and amps rather than all-in-one modelers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I build pedals. So
Yes.
I guess I'm going to take that argument. But, you know, I come from a slightly different perspective. I started out traditionally playing with amps and pedals, and that's what was available. That was before I purchased an HX Stomp. You know, but the ability to haul around that gear to church. I'm a Sunday morning player. I play at church every weekend. And to haul my amps in, you know, I've got to have a tube head, and then so I actually had a combo amp, and it was too heavy. So I said, well, I've traded my combo for a head, straight up, you know. So I downgraded for convenience, and then, but then I'd have to bring a load box, and then once you have your load box, you know, so you're hauling in all this gear, and I'm trying to do my best to make it sound the same every weekend. That was great. It all sounded great. But then enters Worship Tutorials and a video on the HX Stomp and how great this equipment is. And so here I am the next day. I'm blowing $600-$700 on an HX Stomp, and I'm going down the modeling world because I want something more convenient to bring with me to a worship set. So it started with convenience. So there's a pro there. It is convenient. You do get very consistent, reliable sound from week to week. You don't have to worry about mic placement. You don't have to worry about your sound guy choosing the right microphones if you don't bring all of your own gear. You know, so there is a benefit to that side of things, but that is in the amp world. I started using the HX Stomp with an all-in-one, and I realized, man, I've only got 3 buttons, and there's so much this thing can do. Ding, ding, here's how the micro was born, right? So then I started using the micro with the HX Stomp as an all-in-one. But then kind of what I went down and what I noticed is I missed that feeling of pedals. I missed being able to touch the knobs. I missed the ability to really dial in a really nice, lush reverb that you could only get with someone's specific algorithm, you know? And so I kind of started doing the hybrid thing where I started doing pedals into a modeler. And then that's where I've been ever since. I held up my pedal board earlier. If you notice, there was not a modeler on there, but I do have it set up in the 4-cable method. So I do run all my drives into a modeler, and that will vary. I do have the Kemper, the XFX3, and I do have a Stomp, and I use all of them, and I love them all. They're all great. All the things. Correct.
Can I make two points though? I'm gonna argue against myself. Why pedals and amps are really, really great and a very different experience from the modeling world. When you if you have a great tube amp combo or amp and cab, right? If you plug into it at almost any settings that are normal on the amp, like turn all the knobs straight up to noon, with any decent guitar, it's going to sound pretty good. You can probably coax it a little bit to make it sound better. If you plug into a modeler, that's almost never the case. Like just straight out of the factory, like factory presets, or if you pull an amp model up, like you plug into that tube amp, it sounds awesome almost at any normal setting. Modelers, not so much. The other thing is when you switch guitars, that tube amp is going to sound really, really good with different guitars. It'll take on the character of the other guitar. In my experience, modelers don't handle that change nearly as gracefully as an amp does. I think that's one of the things that the amp still, for some, whatever it is about it, it still has, the modelers haven't quite, they're better than they used to be. And the other thing I've realized is as I have put that pedal board together, I kind of went for my all-time dream pedals and some that are a little bit oddball. Like I'm gonna rep the Eventide Micro Pitch, right? That is a pedal that is awesome sounding, and it's not easy to get that sound in a modeler that easily. So there are pedals that
Yeah,
I'm the same
and that's
way
what you're
with
saying,
was-
Junior. It's like they have a thing, and it's like the modelers don't quite have it unless they just happen to model that specific pedal. Then they might get close,
Yeah, that was my point. You can get, it appears to be that drive pedals are very easily modeled, most of them. We were talking about the Rat the other day, but things like...
They don't seem to get that one very well, though.
But things like our Revelation Reverb, Jimmy's done several shootouts, and it's really tough to get that huge lush trails. Even with the new updates, reverbs are tough. So that's another thing where I'm going to say I need my pedals. So I'm a hybrid. I need my pedals because I like the individuality factor that each one of them brings. And then, of course, I like the modeler world of the convenience for the amps. The amp in a box, the setup, the ease of use, just to set it right on the floor and plug in direct and go. So I'm a hybrid.
Colton, why have you chosen the hybrid approach? Because I'm guessing you need consistent sounds that you can pull up over and over again, which is where a modeler really excels.
Yeah, that's for sure one of the reasons. So I actually started out with a Helix floor.
Okay.
When I was in college, when I really started getting into electric guitar, and playing at my church, I was also leading, and so I needed that easy. But I always loved real pedals, especially overdrives. And at the time, the overdrives and the modelers weren't as good as the real thing. Now, like since the release of the Heir Apparent and a few of the other things, they're getting dang close. And so as soon as they announced the HX Stomp, I was like, this is going to solve all my problems. And so I pre-ordered it day one because I just knew it was going to be for me. And so that's what I did. I got the HX Stomp, and then I got a few overdrive pedals, and then just ran all my wet effects in the Stomp as well as the amp modeling. And that was my setup for a while. But then as I've needed more stuff for studio work and albums and things like that, I've really expanded that to really now it's really only running my amps and then delays, because I think that is one thing that Line 6 has nailed really well is delays, and they have a lot of different options and they all sound really good. And so it saves me some room on my pedal board to have more overdrives instead of...
What are your go-to delays, Cole?
So I really love the transistor tape, and then I usually always run 2 delays at the same time. And my kind of go-to is a dotted eighth and then an eighth note delay. I love the way those play together. And so kind of all as like my main dotted eighth sound, I'll usually use like a transistor tape or like a digital. And then usually on every single patch that I have is like my eighth note kind of less in the mix is the low res from the Legacy series. That thing sounds awesome. It does this really cool warble thing. And so if you listen to the intro of like Living God or a new song that's about to come out, The Battle Is Yours, that warble happens a lot with that eighth note delay with the low res. And so those are kind of like my go-to delays. So yeah, but I mean, I started out the same way, like where I started playing electric guitar when we already had all of this great modeling stuff to bounce also off of. And so I really didn't even get into playing amps, real amps, and having to mic them up until I got to Red Rocks. But then I convinced Tyler, our head worship pastor, to sell all our amps, and now we have Kempers at all of our campuses, just because we had to like do maintenance with the amps, and people, they weren't working, and so now I've been put in charge of the job of trying to sell 13 amps, so that's been also really fun. So
I'd like to know what you have for sale.
okay, Brian, if you're interested, text me and I will send you everything that I still have.
I'm interested.
Okay.
Doug has got his phone out, right? He's beating me to the punch. Look at him go.
Yeah, I'm like, Colton, what you got? What you got?
Yeah.
What do you have?
We have some really cool
him.
stuff.
I'll outbid him.
Yeah, we got some really cool stuff. We have a lot of
Doug, look
Tylers.
behind you. You don't need any more amps.
We have a couple Jacksons.
I have
we
a
have
Tyler
Fender Prosonic.
HM30, and that
We have
thing
two
is
of those, and then we
Yeah,
have a
that's a good
JT46 as well. That
It's like a
rips.
Plexi. Yeah.
Yep, it's awesome.
Very cool. Well, so back to like the pedals versus modeling thing. The other thing about it, like Junior, we were talking like pedals have like a character and they're very unique, and you can fall in love with one. And back to the whole like your blues break, your Lion the Lamb as a blues breaker style, like. There's only one of those in the Helix, right? And it's the King of Tone, which is a pretty far. It's a derivation it's not like your Lamb. And so, like what you created doesn't really exist in the Helix or in the Axe FX 3, from my understanding as well. And so pedals they all have such a different character and vibe, and you can like really just connect with one. And the Lion, so I have Bradford and I did like an experiment today. We were playing with these. I have it's made by Fox Pedal. It's called the Wrath. It's their version of a Rat, and it's like a take on it
They're
with
an Oklahoma
different
company.
And they are. And look at this. I'm repping Creation. They're the same guys, right?
Dude,
So
Oklahoma, they make some great gear. Walrus.
That's right.
Creation.
Walrus is there. Yeah.
That's my board. I got a Creation board here too. So love it.
Yeah. So but the Lion is a very different flavor of that pedal than the Wrath is. Both really cool, different. Doesn't really sound like the. And we were talking about this earlier. Like I don't think that any of the modelers get the Fractals Rat sounds really cool, but it doesn't sound like those. The Helix one, I've never loved it.
They said that their Rat was broken. They actually somehow
did,
now,
which was funny because the thing. Doug, we can talk about that.
One. Yeah.
Helix is out 5 years, and 5 years in, they say. I love Line 6. I love the people there. I love the Helix. But they say 5 years later that our Rat was never right. And so they give you the Ratatouille or whatever the Vermin was the original one. And it sounds different, but it doesn't sound like either the Lion or that Wrath that I have over there. It doesn't sound like either of those. So they're all like, if you want that sound, like you hear a demo and you're like, I love that. It doesn't exist in there. And there's some pedals that I have, some drives that I've heard demos of that I love them. So I got one, and it's like, they're not in these modelers because they're just not, they don't model them, So unless you get the Quad Cortex, then you can, never mind. I won't go there.
Yeah. Our bass player just got a Quad Cortex, and so it's been cool messing with that. But cool thing. So both me and our other electric guitar player and our bass player, all HX Stomp users.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So everything you hear on this latest record is all HX Stomp amp wise.
That's awesome.
The flip.
Yeah, when I play bass,
really
I'm using the HX Stomp.
Yeah, it's great for bass.
The flip top, is that what you said, Doug? For bass?
That's a great sounding. It's just great.
Yeah.
Oh, selling one of those too. So.
Brian, you
if
said
you guys are interested.
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Plug.
Okay.
I might seriously be interested in that, Tyler. The
The
Plexi Tyler.
JT46. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
cool amp.
That
I'll send
that
you a
I
picture
might
of
be
it after this.
interested in. Because I've really enjoyed the Tyler that I have. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you
The
put it in
HM30s
a
are
combo,
great.
you'd have a blues breaker.
Yeah.
Well, no. So is the JT46? Is that the same as the JTM, or is it more like
I would presume that's what it is the JTM 45 that Tyler's done.
You
And
would
his
think.
Princeton is awesome. His Princeton.
Oh,
is-
yeah.
That's
the
just
PT or whatever, the 14?
Yeah.
That is good. Yeah.
That's a great sounding amp.
Let's see.
So, all right, I brought out a play toy here in honor of Bradford. The PVC.
Oh, the RJM.
See?
Yeah. So,
Yep.
so the interesting thing is, I'm gonna, for those of us that are still kind of hanging out, I'm seeing some people still hanging out there. First of all, thank you for everybody that's hanging out. Paul, Gary, Andrew, Tammy, if you're still with us, thank you. So here's the thing. I'm going to go on my little Gear Fever. Hey, you haven't rung through, bud. Where are you? He misses his JT14. All right. So here's the
That's
thing.
that Princeton, right? Yeah.
This is I am all about. First of all, the great thing about having MIDI associated with your drive pedals, it's kind of like a dream come true, because the thing is that most people have two settings that they wish they could set their drive pedal at. Tube Screamer, perfect example. There's the way that you normally use the Tube Screamer, and then there's the Stevie Ray where you turn the drive down and you turn the volume up and you use it as a boost. There we go. Okay.
I would argue
Now-
the third way is the Mark Tremonti style.
Mhm.
Volume and gain at 10 and tone on 0. You should try it. It's pretty great, actually. It really works. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No. It's
I would argue the third way is the
Uh-oh.
Mark Tremonti.
Oh, we got some lag.
Volume and gain at 10 and tone
Hey,
on 0.
it sounds like you've got a speaker up that you're muting. There we go. What's going on, Ryan?
Hello. What's up, guys?
Hey,
Welcome. I
Good.
like the props there. There we
Can you
go.
see that?
There we go. Look
There
at
it
that.
is. Oh,
Sitting
how
on an
beautiful.
authentic tube amp. He brought the real tube amp.
Vincent.
Hold on, wait a second. Can I do this? Let's see if I can get it in the first
Those
shot. There we
don't
go.
suck.
Yeah,
Hey.
these are pretty nice too. I
There we
missed
go.
my
So
my
that-
Tyler, but I've got a good one here with me. So
That's the life of a tube amp at church. You're getting stuck in the back 40. Nobody sees
That's
it.
right.
Nobody wants to hear it. It's like the concept. Tube amps are meant to be, well,
It's in
depending on who
prison.
the sound tech is, not seen and not heard. Did I say that? All right. So
Yeah, you said it. It's true.
I did say it. It's a sad thing. So first of all, Ryan, Gear Fever. One of the things that I like, and first of all, Colton, don't be bashful. Interrupt us, please.
Okay.
You're way too polite because, like, you're such your wealth of knowledge and experience, and the fact that you're not on the East Coast or the West Coast. You're representing.
Right
This
in
is
the-
important.
I know.
We need to hear
Just
from
right
you.
in the
So, like,
middle.
do not be bashful because once Brian and I get going, watch out. So,
Okay.
so one of the things that Ryan and I were talking about a little bit earlier is that Gear Fever does not just appeal exclusively to worship guitar players. So I want to set this up a little bit because the Rat was really the distortion pedal before there was all this boutique stuff. So, like, if you had a Marshall and you needed to try and get it in the zone, Jeff Beck had a Rat before he had a Klon. It was just the kind of only option. The DS1, the early DS1s, by the way, are amazing, but it wasn't like the Rat. The Rat was punk rock. It was just a sound. And the great thing most people don't necessarily know about a Rat was volume, drive, and then a filter, which is really kind of like a tone control, but it's they called it filter, which is kind of a misleading thing. You look at it as a guitar player who's never used a Rat, and you're like, the heck does that do? But, the interesting thing is, every pedal kind of has its little kind of homage. Generally speaking, there's nothing new under the sun. But what I love, Ryan, about kind of what we were talking about, your kind of cake being, It's like, hey, there's stuff for worship, but it's not just a worship world. And there are a bunch of people like myself and Mark Tremonti in the upper right-hand corner. Oh, there he is. Mark Tremonti over here. Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. Wrong direction. There we go. That guy right there with the Les Paul in the background. Nobody plays Les Pauls at church. Come on. That's a rocker guy waiting to happen. Yep. You know what I'm talking about. So
You're talking about me, Doug?
I am talking about you, Mark Tremonti.
Wait, hold on.
There we go.
Here we go. I'll put it up in the. There it is.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
This is from 1979, made in Japan before they got sued. It has Les Paul on the headstock even. I don't think they can do that anymore. I think it says Love Rock now.
It does say Love Rock.
Yes.
So, in any case, Ryan, the thing that you wanted to talk about, and we were excited about hearing, was just kind of your take on, how these pedals fit both into a worship world as well as people that don't just play at church and just kind of riffing on being used. So let me set you up with your own window here. So let me just do a little something here, a little bit of magic here.
Here we go.
Oh, this is going to be special. And let's see if I can pull this off. And that's
Pressure is on, huh?
And let's do that. Oh, no. That's what we want to do there. Oh, hold on. Oh, why? There we go. All right, let's do this. And in a perfect world, now it's going to go over to here. And anytime. Let's see if it's actually taking that change. It hasn't. Come on. All right, publish, back to live mode. There we go. All right.
There we go.
All right, so
yeah, there's
there we go. So tell us all about it. Fill us in.
Yeah. So for those people who don't know me, I'm a worship guy at heart. I've been involved in worship since I was 12 years old. I started as a drummer, but guitar is for sure my main instrument now. But what's the beautiful thing about guitar pedals is there's no such thing as really a worship, pedal or a worship pedal board. Although I think worship guitarists have pedal board tendencies. But what's great about the pedals that Junior's been making over at Jet is they're tuned specifically for to fit within kind of the trends of today's worship scene. So they fit so well in, the popular, we're talking Hillsong, Elevation, Red Rocks, right? All of those guys. These pedals are a perfect fit into that world. But they work in other contexts. What I do is I don't, everything that I publish is not worship, but I use these for both worship and my demos all the time. I love to use these pedals, and I use them as a sweetener when I'm playing with other types of pedals, so modulation, wet effects. These are great pedals to just add really high quality sounds to them. I get questions about them all the time on my social media because I feel like Jet Pedals is well known in the worship world, but not well known outside of the worship world. So there's a lot of people who have, are obsessed with pedals like I am, who hear these things and see these pedals that they've never heard of. And they know when they're hearing a high quality pedal. They know the feature set's good. They know the sounds sound good. So there's a lot of interest in those things. So I think that's something that's really cool. Line 6 is creating, the Stomp, the HX series, not just for worship guys. So there's a lot of usability for these pedals outside of the worship world. And I think it's catching on because I get questions about specifically the Line all the time because they've kind of lived on my pedal board for a while now. And whenever I post a picture or something, people always ask what they are. And there's definitely interest there. So you're doing a great job. Jet is doing a great job building specifically for the worship community. But I think there's a whole nother world of guitarists out there who are interested too. So it might be a good way to get people, especially with the Lion and the Lamb. For us worship guys, that's so overtly worship. That might be a great way to get these people who are in worship, interested or hearing what the worship world is doing too.
You need to put skulls on them.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All
Well, I
right.
appreciate the plug. Go ahead, Doug.
So why aren't there? So there's one other drive pedal that has MIDI that I know of, besides the Line 6 delay or drive modeler, right? So that old Line 6 big pedal that came out about the time of the DL4, technically has MIDI, but it's not like you're controlling parameters. I think you're just calling up different presets on that thing. Same with the Boss one that kind of came out, the big double pedal, but that's not. And I don't know. I think because it's in the Boss format, that probably has MIDI on it. I need to go over and take a look at it. But why do you think nobody's endeavored to really kind of go down such an obviously lucrative, at least tonally speaking, endeavor?
That's a great question. I mean, I know there's a few pedals out there that do have MIDI in it. The ones that come to the top of my head are digital overdrives. I think the Source Audio LA, is it LA Lady? Is that right? I believe that's digital. And then the Boss OD 200 is a digital overdrive. I think
The Jackson
New
Audio
Neighbor.
stuff.
Yeah, New Neighbor, they make it a digital, but it's a digital overdrive. Jackson Audio is analog. They make great products. They have that. That's kind of what sparked me. I love what they're doing. I love following those guys. They have
Chase Bliss.
to say this nicely.
Right.
They have a little bit of limited MIDI functionality, and they chose to do that for some reason. I don't know why, because I know they have the ability to knock it out of the park. But you can do gain staging with there. But one of the things that I wanted is, again, more with less, right? I want to have control over my EQ stack as well. So everything, volume, gain, EQ stack, clipping options. So yeah, Jackson Audio has one out there, and then I think RJM has another one of the most. Was that the one you're thinking of? RJM,
Yeah.
The Overture. I have yet to play that. Bradford has, which I hear that's an amazing
Yeah.
drive as well.
Bradford likes
So
it. Yes, it's good.
Yeah. I don't know why we haven't seen that yet. I've been working on The Lion and the Lamb for over a year and a half now, and we had kind of a soft launch because of RJM. They beat me to the punch. I had no clue they were going after that sector, and then when I saw they launched the Overture, I was playing catch up. So thank you for that. But I think it's the worship guys need the options. We need to have that programmability. We need to have a lot of these guys have switchers on their boards, and they want to hit the button and they want to control their spaceship, as they call it. So I think it's a very niche market, and that's kind of why we're seeing it. I'm definitely focusing towards the worship guitar player, and that's why we're going down that road. So that's probably maybe why you haven't seen many others, because I don't know how many other of those companies are actually niching and focusing towards the worship market.
Well, it's an interesting thing that the RJM folks are not just in the worship space. Petrucci uses the RJM stuff. A bunch of mainstream artists do. But, it's an interesting thing because they clearly know that the Drofts of the world, with the PVC 8, and, the Bradfords, they're very fond of Bradford. They know him by first name. They made that special one. They made that red one for him custom, didn't they?
I don't know. Maybe, yeah.
I think they made him a custom red PBC 6X. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
They're like Petrucci, Bradford. No, let's send the red one to Bradford. But, Junior, I will encourage you to pray about just kind of going, what would happen in the mainstream? Because the thing is that it means that you don't have to use multiple drives, because there's a bunch of folks that do stack drive pedals. And the tap dance, I don't care whether it's Sunday morning or not. It's a flippin' drag, unless you're Colton. And so let me not rain on Colton's parade.
I will say this: I have been looking into getting like one of the PBC Mastermind, like the 6X, just because I also music direct on the weekends. And so I have a separate pedal board that's right in front of my feet that's controlling Ableton Live. And then I have my board at an angle while also looking at a computer and have a mic in front of me while also trying to play lead parts. And so it's like doing this on steroids on the weekends, which I really enjoy because it's a challenge for me as a guitar player to be able to communicate while also play, while also control Ableton. So it's really fun for me that way. But I'm like, maybe I should get a 6X just to make my life easier, with changing effects to just one button.
I will tell you that their MIDI implementation in that world is head and shoulders above anything else.
Yeah.
Ron Manelli has gone to town. When you open that deep editor up and take a look at how easy it is to map things, and I don't want to steal Brian's thunder, because Brian is all about, I want any button to do what I want it to do. Brian wills his gear. So Brian, would you care to kind of talk, because we're now into the intelligent control, which again is kind of what the MCX is about, which is like, look, you got 3 buttons. I can't get to a service with 3 buttons. Like, no. Sir?
Yeah. So I did build, so it's kind of funny. I did put together a board, but it is controlled by, it's basically, I attempted to take a fairly large pedal board and turn it into a Helix, because I have the Morningstar MC8 on it that controls all of the, like, I've got, the H9 and the black hole and the micro pitch and the DD500. So the MC8 controls all of that. And then I have all the drives that I have in it are going into their ML5, like, programmable looper. So I can then program the drives on and off and whatever. So you can make one button press turn on and off anything, including the analog non-MIDI pedals, because they're in the looper that's programmable. Yeah. And it was sort of my just experiment for some content as well, to see if I could make a pedal board turn into a Helix, I guess. But what was the question, Doug? About making any button do anything and like having ultimate control over it?
Yeah,
we do that a lot with and that's one of the reasons I love Fractal stuff so much, is because you can do that, like with their foot controllers. Any button can do any one of 3 different things depending on how you engage with it, like a press, a double press, a press and hold. They all do different things, and you can program each button individually, all 3 actions, to do whatever you want for any given button. So it would actually be a great way to run tracks, because you could make snapshots that are scene changes that also send Ableton or whatever you're running for tracks, or Looptimus, or whatever it is. And that can all happen with one single button press. And that is I really enjoy doing that. That is like the nerd side of me really gets into that. So yeah. It's weird though, because I've lived in like Helix and Fractal and Quad Cortex now a little bit, Kemper and everything, and the way they interact is different than MIDI. And MIDI is such an old thing; like it's been around since the 80s, right?
80s,
maybe.
Yeah.
So it's like a 30-year-old technology that is extremely capable. But the way you do, so I had to, like, my brain didn't want to learn how to do MIDI implementation after something like the Axe Effects, for example. It's a completely different way to interact. I'm actually very anxious for MIDI 2.0, Junior, do you know anything about what that's going to look like? Are your pedals, will they be compatible with that?
I haven't even heard about this yet.
You know, from what I
It's a
understand, MIDI 2.0
two-way
is
communication.
going to start
right?
doing bidirectional. So instead of
Yeah.
unidirectional, where it all goes one direction, we can do bidirectional. So we don't have any programming set up for MIDI 2.0 quite yet, but obviously that is something we'll stay on top of and implement into our products as we see fit and as the demand increases for it.
Yeah.
And so, and kind of one thing I wanted to think about, or I was thinking about when you were talking about press one button and, you know, control the world. You know, it's funny how everyone has their own setup and how they want to operate. And you've got the MC8, so it's basically like my MCX, but it's much larger. You know, it's got 8 buttons on it, and it's got the screen so you can kind of see. So a lot of people will want to set it up to where, okay, I've got 8 buttons, so maybe I can use 3 buttons for your micro pitch, and then 3 buttons for your delay, and 3 buttons for this. And so you can control all your individual pedals like that. And kind of what we've done to stick with our philosophy of, you know, simple, intuitive, less, and sophisticated, is we've shrunk that all down into 3 buttons, no screen, you know, save your pedal board real estate, but it still fires out 16 messages like the MC8 would, but it's just all your workflow. And so what I do is I program in my song, as we discussed a little bit ago, I just program in all of my songs. So the way my buttons are set up is like verse, bridge, chorus, you know, things like that. So then I just know I have them set up in order from song 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
So I don't need the screen. I don't need to control all my pedals individually because of my workflow. And that's just, it's funny because we all have our own spot in the market. We all kind of carve out our own niche within the market.
Right. That's
now
how
I go full screen and I'm done.
Yeah, that was a perfect switch. That was like, oh, I got this. I got a new solo feature, and then he stops. So,
and I'm done.
So, you know, so Junior, I mean, at some point, are you going to do a 6 button if people make enough noise?
I don't know. I think there's such great products out there that fit that market. I don't think I need to add to the mix. I've got a few other things planned for the future of Jet, and I think I think that's the path we want to take at the moment. So I don't have a 6 button plan at the moment.
Well, I will.
Oh, sorry, Doug.
No, yielding the floor, please.
Oh, I would say, if you is there a MIDI controller, like a 6 button with individual scribble strips on top of each button that's not really expensive? Does that exist? Because that would be what I would want. Because even the MC8 with the one screen, and you can, you know,
pretty crammed.
Like the between the Helix and the FC stuff for frat, like I have the scribble strips are like a deal breaker almost for me. I love them so much, and you know, because like you can adjust, you can make your stuff like do so many things at once. It's handy to have a screen telling you what this button actually does. You know,
of course.
So I know like RJM does, but you have to get into like their GT 20, like you have to spend a lot of money.
There's
so I wonder if somebody makes
I think a couple of companies overseas that are doing that as well, which doesn't help much, you know, to keep that cost down to get it over here in the States. But
the you know, one of the things that I like about having a larger format MIDI controller is that, and I learned this from one of a really good video on it online. I forget the name of the guy, but basically you use one button as a home button, and then you have each one of the other buttons mapped to a specific effect, and then you go to that effect and you have multiple parameters for that effect, and so it means that you can basically deep dive into parameter control inside the framework of a preset, and then go back home. And then if you want to go up, you know, let's say, you know, button 2 is your HX stomp, then you go up into HX stomp and you have your ability to, you know, here's the other thing for anybody that's watching, you know, part of the decision I had to make, and I know it's going to be upside down, but I was like, well, what's going to go where, right? So I was like fortunate that I was able to, and I think at one point I did have this guy down here, but you know, the idea is because this guy was in the loop, I didn't really need to turn it on or off. In the same way with a stomp, maybe I want to be able to manipulate stuff right in the front there because again, it's MIDI controllable. But the idea, you know, there are times like Colton will attest that if you have some sort of switcher or PBC, you know, 6X, that you want to have a preset where everything's on, and then you can turn stuff on and off, so long as you remember to turn everything back on before you get out of it. So that is to say, I'm sorry, let me back up a step. Going down the rabbit trail here, but here's the deal. Is that the idea is that when you start mapping stuff out to presets with a looper controller like the PV6X, if you turn something off in quote unquote pedal board mode, and then go back to a preset that's supposed to call up that particular drive pedal, and you turn it off, you got nothing. You have direct guitar kind of traveling, clean guitar traveling through your pedal board. So the downside is that, and that's actually, no, that's not true. There is no, I take it back. Inside the PBC 6X, there is a pedal board mode where you can actually drive it like turn the different loops on and off. That's the way it does it. My bad. Backing up. That is to say, you have individual loops. So as opposed to somebody out there is going like, it's a looper. The idea is that there's a separate loop for each device or multiple devices. And if you run out of loops and you've got MIDI devices, you can put multiple MIDI devices on the same loop, passing signal from one to the other. And you can turn that loop on or off, or you can send a MIDI message to say you've got two MIDI-able digital delays. One's on, one's off. They're both on, they're both off. It doesn't matter. That when you open up that loop, the MIDI information can enable you to manipulate that. But the danger of kind of having a patch and then you start turning stuff on and off because you get all excited is you go back to preset mode unless you're actually in stomp mode, and you go back to pull up a preset and all of a sudden you've turned something off that you need in the next patch. It happens. But the idea of being able to use a controller like that, a looping MIDI-enabled controllers, you no longer have to have stuff where you can reach it with your feet. And so, Colton, you're going to be my example. When you're controlling Ableton and you're MDing and you're watching the guitar and maybe you even capo and you've got to like if you're capoing left and you're Ableton right, do you run Ableton with your right foot or your left foot?
It depends. I think I'm ambidextrous when it comes to my feet. And so I could be looping something back. Say the worship leader wants to go back and do a bridge really big, you know, she'll give me the sign. And so with my right foot, I'll quickly hit the loop section. And then with my left foot, I have my board over here and I'm turning on an overdrive to match the energy that we're about to go into, while also telling the band, all right, let's build it here, you know. And so, there's a lot going on.
He's talented. He's a talented man.
Very talented.
That is impressive.
But I really enjoy it.
Colton,
so now you got a program
with the MIDI looper, and then we'll have your Ableton control your MCX, which then controls your MIDI looper and controls your pedal board for you.
Yeah. So if I just hit one button for Ableton, it's also changing stuff for my pedal board. So that would be fantastic.
Yes. Then you got a program
you got the gear already. We'll just get you set up.
Yeah.
The downside of that is that when the computer crashes, you're done.
Yeah, and that's happened before.
Manual mode.
And that's happened before. I'll be like, all right, guys, let's hold the one. I'm going to restart Ableton, add some cymbal swells, maybe light tom groove, and then I'll like mouth a click or I'll snap what I want him to do. Things happen. Technology fails.
So I mean, man, yes. I'm not the naysayer because having that convenience, especially as somebody that's MDing, it's great to be able to be freed up to do that.
Yeah, and I love Ableton because it's so intuitive, especially for us live. We do a lot of spontaneous moments, and so Ableton just gives us that flexibility to be able to do whatever we want. You know, say we're in a big bridge section, and all of a sudden the worship leader wants to bring it down. on my pedal board it's just this MIDI controller that has two expression pedals. So I have one for the tracks, and then I have one for the guide. And so say we're in a spontaneous moment and I don't want the guide, like the band, to be listening to the guide, I can pull that down and then just be the guide for the band. Or I can bring down the tracks and then ramp them back in whenever we build it back up, so it's just really flexible for us and what we do at Red Rocks. And so Ableton makes it really easy for me to MD and control everything while also still playing. So it just took a few weeks of practice.
Yeah.
That's pretty ninja. All right.
I do look like a ninja on Sundays. So
that's awesome. Brian,
you should check them out. Where's your plug? RedRocksWorship.com. You guys stream your YouTube channel?
Yeah, we got so any of the videos that you watch online of our services, that'll be on redrockschurch.com or on the Red Rocks Church YouTube channel. And I just play electric guitar for those. We have an amazing MD, our keyboard player Scott, who MDs for those. He's kind of our lead MD on Red Rocks Worship, and he is phenomenal. He's taught me everything I know. But I just MD at our Lakewood campus on the weekends. But yeah. So I think we're going to be making a video about MDing just because we have a really unique approach of how we do things. And so I feel like a lot of people would have interest in that. So we need to try and make that happen. So
it's great.
I want to take a quick moment and thank all the good people that are still hanging out. Paul, MIDI 2.0, go on. Paul, thanks so much for hanging out. Teddy, awesome. Gary, thanks again. Justin, hey, what's going on? And Alan, again, always a pleasure. Rick, Ariana, just everybody that's hung out, and we hope this has served you well. It is that time. Brian, worshiptutorials.com, of course. Is there anything you would like to add as we send this live stream off into the night?
I don't, not that I can think of now. I'm ready to go to bed, Doug.
I've got a video to shoot.
Oh yeah,
my night's starting.
Goodness.
Yeah,
you're West Coast though. You got plenty of time.
That's right.
That's awesome, Brian.
Thank you for having me. I'll say that it's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. It's good to hang out with all of you fine people.
Appreciate it.
It's always
Thank you very much for being here.
It's a great day. Right.
Yep. You need more guitars, though.
Yeah, that's not enough.
There's more over here, and there's more behind me. But I agree.
There's not.
You're right.
It's like you're single.
You know what
file.
would be awesome if there was another row on the top.
Yeah, you just need to get a vault like what the Edge has. Just two huge vaults that has just 40 guitars in it.
Yeah. I think I vow these days the guitar, as I get more, they'll just be older and older guitars. That's what I need.
Yeah, I like that.
They're investment pieces.
That's right. It's an investment.
30 years from now,
I'll tell my wife this is
pretty.
retirement.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's what we'll
I
tell.
love that.
And then you just keep your top 10,
That's right.
And his 10 tops.
And it's 10
tops. I only have one of those. Yeah.
He's only got one of those. That's funny. Brian, is there anything you would like to add as we...
It's me?
Gearfever.com. No.
Our names are too similar.
I know, they are similar. If we're doing plugs, at Gear Fever is on Instagram. Go check out my YouTube. My latest demo was of the pedal we were talking about.
Oh, we were talking
so I got
about
one of
how much you pay for it? How much you pay for it?
It wasn't $2,000, that's for sure.
I'm not saying.
That is.
He's not saying.
That is.
It's the next.
No, I got it. I was one of the lucky few who got. I pre-ordered it when it came out, so I think I got it for retail, which was. I think it was like $300. which
I
is
think
very
it's-
expensive for a Boss, but well worth it apparently.
Well,
I haven't looked
that's
at
a
the used
wise
prices at all.
investment.
So yeah, exactly.
Very good.
Wise investment. So so go check out the YouTube, Instagram. That's where I'm at mostly.
Check out the $3,000 Boss pedal. Love it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the domain name. Hang on, I've got it up over here. Hold on. There's an addition. It's not just gearfever.com. What was it that got added to that?
It's gearfevermusic.com.
Thank you. Gearfever.
Gearfever.com is like a secondhand cell phone selling
Yes.
site.
So, yes. All right.
Darn it.
Awesome. Colton.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Ryan.
Yeah, you guys can follow me at It's Colton Yo on Instagram. Also, make sure to follow Red Rocks Worship and subscribe to our YouTube channel. July 9th, we have a new song coming out with the full EP coming out early August, so be on the lookout for that.
Yes.
We're really excited about that, and then we're about to hit the road here this summer and in the fall. And so whenever we announce those tour dates, make sure to come out and see us. We'd love to meet y'all. But yeah, that's about all I got to plug. So
Thank you very much for making time. Really appreciate it.
yeah,
You've been-
thanks
you've
for
been
having
awesome.
me, guys. This was a blast.
Awesome. All right. Senior.
Yeah, senior, junior, according to Bradford.
Senior, junior.
Yeah.
Senior,
It
junior.
doesn't help. It doesn't help that I'm a rather big guy too. So 6'2", 290. You know, I'm a big guy. So having a name like Junior just does. Yeah, it's fun to say the least. But thank you to everybody here. Thank you, Bradford. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate the support you guys have been giving us. Thank you to everyone tuning in. Thank you to the Worship Guitar Player and the Reverb channel. Go check them out. The Reverb store, go check them out. And then we're gearing up to head to Summer NAMM, so we're looking forward to that. Any of you all heading out to NAMM, come by booth number 1628. Come play the Lion and the Lamb, Revelation MCX. We'll talk about MIDI all day, whatever you want, or Kansas City Barbecue. And I guess I think one thing we didn't get to tonight is we're getting ready to hopefully announce a pretty rather large giveaway. So stay tuned to us on the Instagram channel. We'll announce that. We'll put together some graphics and we'll launch the giveaway. But it's a mega giveaway with some really great partners from Worship Tutorials.
Stop.
It's going to be awesome.
That's it. Lion.
Bless you.
That's all we got.
Junior, what a pleasure and exceptionally great job of thinking outside the box and actually responding to the call of like, why hasn't somebody done this? I guess that somebody's going to be me. Love that. That is what makes. I almost said, and can I say this without making anybody angry? That's what makes America great. I'm leaving out the last word. What makes America great is that we are a country where people can actually go, nobody's done that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring it to market. I'm going to take that idea. I'm going to take my hands. I'm going to take my time and my resources, and I'm going to build this, and I'm going to build a company, and it's going to help people make music and lead worship better. That's pretty awesome, dude.
Amen
So
to
hats
that.
off.
Appreciate it.
All
Appreciate
right.
it. Thanks a lot. It's been a fun journey.
All right, and you can see down below reverb.com/worship guitar player. Official authorized distribution for your favorite. Oh, I do that. It's either super cheesy or I do that really well. Probably more cheesy, but in any case, for your favorite jet pedals, we are absolutely thrilled to be involved in the rise of a great company that started on a Sunday morning. How about that?
It's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for everybody that hung out tonight. Look for the announcement of the giveaway. Thanks for Bruce Adolph, publisher of Worship Musician Magazine, without whom none of this would be possible. And again, everybody that is watching or watched on the replay, thank you. To everybody that invested their time hanging out on this side of the camera or whatever side of the camera we're on, thank you again. Always a pleasure. Really appreciate the investment of your time. Thank you. Oh, we got to close in prayer. Lord, hey, Junior, you want to lead us out in prayer? Close us out there?
All right. Lord, our Father, we just come to you and thank you for this time that we can be together as family, Lord, and as brothers and sisters in Christ, and spend this time to glorify you. Just thank you for allowing us to use our gifts to glorify you and to bring others into Christ. Lord, we pray all these things in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Awesome.
Amen.
Thanks again so
Amen.
much. God bless.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Good night.
See you
Great to see you
guys.
guys.
Pleasure. Colton, Brian, Junior, everyone, good night and God bless. Thanks so much.
See ya.
Thanks, Doug.